Audio is definitely not coming through in my OBS, but we are live and people will be hearing me. But I know what the issue is and I'll be able to correct it immediately.
Well,
Now,
Josh,
now, now you are live officially.
All right. Thanks everybody for tuning into the deeper dive today. Sponsored by Awesemo.com. It's like awesome except not. At least that's what this lady at Happy Hour was telling me yesterday. And I'm joined today by Adam Scherer, aka Ship My Money DFS. Adam, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Nice to be back to a full NBA slate. Last night was a pretty rough one for me, at least. So excited to have 10 games to pick players from.
Yeah, I mean, last night was really interesting because we had the Rondo lock with AD, and then his blowout, and then the previous night was also really intriguing because everyone had Pirtle, and then 10 minutes before game time, they're like, "Psych, Pop benched him." So 10 games tonight. I have a feeling that we might not want to go offline until 10 p.m. when the last game tips. What do you think?
Yeah, a lot of news that potentially could break throughout the night. I guess it's not that there's like a lot of questionable players, but there are several questionable players that have massive impacts on their team. So definitely a night where if you're playing a late swap site, you need to be around.
Yeah, definitely. And most of these players are in earlier games. But we saw last night with Andrew Wiggins, he was scratched about 20 minutes before the game, and he wasn't even on the injury report. So it's always good to be tuned in. Um, right now, though, it's been pretty quiet. Not a whole lot of news. There's only a couple main guys that are out on today's slate. Questionable players. We got Serge Ibaka and De'Aaron Fox. They're probably the big ones we're looking out for. Norman Powell and Bruce Brown, certainly impact players. And then how can I forget Luka Doncic? But the word on the street is he's questionable because last night was his 21st birthday. What are you making about that?
Did not realize it was his 21st birthday, but that's always a little bit scary.
Yeah, and they're in Miami too. So I don't know much about Luka. But Miami, there's a lot of pitfalls for young athletes, as we've seen for James Harden.
He strikes me as someone that likes to have a good time too.
All right. Well, we're not gonna analyze that one too deeply, but you guys can use your own imagination. Our first game of the night, we got Minnesota at Orlando. Now, Orlando usually a pretty tough matchup, but because Karl Anthony Towns is still out, maybe we have some interesting options with the Timberwolves. But then Orlando has a great matchup versus the Timberwolves. So there are a few guys on the Magic that I'm finding to be interesting. Starting with their main man, Nikola Vucevic. Minnesota, they're starting a young gun, Naz Reid at center, and Vucevic should be able to rebound a ton, get a lot of usage, and his minutes have been pretty good recently. He's been averaging about 34 over the last 15. On the season, he's at 32. So, what are you doing with Vucevic tonight?
Yeah, I think he looks like the top option for me from Orlando. Should have plenty of success against this Minnesota front court. Pace up game for Orlando, and then you're just not worried about Naz Reid defensively. His backup is James Johnson, so you have the size advantage for Vooch there. So I think it does look like a good spot. Center is kind of an interesting position just because there are a couple plays that are cheaper that look really, really good, especially if Ibaka is in. But Vooch really isn't that expensive, only $9K on FanDuel, $9,200 on DraftKings. And like you said, the minutes have been up, not only for him, but for several guys on Orlando. Aaron Gordon's been playing massive minutes too. But I think that if you are paying up at center, Vooch looks like a really good option.
Man, I've been tilting so hard about the Magic because, okay, so Aaron Gordon is playing all these minutes because they had Gary Clark backing him up. Now James Ennis is starting and backing up another position, I think. So the problem is Gary Clark. You cannot Google this guy or search on Twitter because apparently there's another Gary Clark that's way more famous. So I just cannot find any information about whether this guy is questionable or what. Have you been following that at all?
No, I guess that's the football wide receiver though.
Oh, is it?
I think. But as far as injury goes, he's not on the injury report, but hasn't been playing.
Yeah, a couple of games ago he was and didn't play. Then last game there was no information and he still didn't play. So that's a potential pitfall. But I'm not really getting to Aaron Gordon. His price is pretty high at 8,200 on DraftKings. He has played huge minutes in the past few games, but that's been a bit hard to count on. Do you think he'll continue to see more than 36 minutes a game?
I think there's a good chance he does, but the pricing is what makes it tough. You mentioned that he's really expensive on DraftKings. Even on FanDuel, he's up to 7,800. I think that as a team, Orlando is more favorably priced on FanDuel than DraftKings, which isn't really surprising. But Gordon isn't even really cheap there, so it's really tough to get to someone that he contributes in all categories, but he's not a really high usage guy. He's only a 20 to 22% usage guy, and it is a good matchup, but you're paying a premium. There's just so many plays on this slate, in that price range that look, I think, better than Gordon.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of getting the bump for his recent performance until they start awarding more points for some sick dunks. Maybe not the best fantasy guy. But there's some other options: Fournier, Fultz, Ennis. Ennis has been getting the start, but nothing really too exciting. On Minnesota, we mentioned Naz Reid has been getting the start center. I assume they'll need his size versus Vooch over James Johnson. And he's a really high variance player because he fouls at more than 6 fouls per 36. So the chance that he's on the floor on any given game for a lot of minutes isn't that high, but the potential is pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a spot where I expect him to have trouble in that regard, because not only does he foul literally everybody, but now he's defending a really high usage player in Vooch. But on DraftKings, I don't think it's really necessary because the price tags come up too. On FanDuel, if I were going to take a shot on Reed, it would be on FanDuel, where he's a $4,500 power forward.
Oh, nice. I didn't realize he's at power forward. That's pretty nice because in my projections, I'm for 29. He's more than a point a minute guy. So definitely a high variance GPP play that you can consider. The guys getting it done in Minnesota recently have been D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley. No, they're not particularly cheap, and the matchup's kind of crappy. But how do you feel about Beasley and Russell today?
Not really getting there. I mean, they're the two guys from Minnesota that look the best to me on DraftKings at their respective prices. But when you start comparing to other teams, I don't really think that they stand out. It's still a tough matchup against Orlando. I think it is kind of surprising how high Minnesota's total is at 113. But you're getting big minutes from Beasley, and Russell should play in the mid 30s as well. They should be the two highest usage guys on the team, most likely. But there are so many guard plays that I really like. It's tough for me to get to them.
Yeah, this is in your Denver Nuggets, Malik Beasley, but tonight might not be the night. Moving on, this is the first game in the SuperDraft slate, which of course they're locking at 7:30 Eastern today. We're going to cover them the last half hour of the show, and they sponsor our show. You can get a special deal. I'll look up the deal. I think it's $20 on a $100 deposit. So Brooklyn is a 3-point favorite over Atlanta. We were talking before the show about Dinwiddie, about LeVert. Dinwiddie, he hasn't really seen the same usage he did originally when Kyrie was out, but Karis LeVert wasn't in that starting lineup. So his usage has gone down to 25, where on the season it's 29. I'm not sure if that's just kind of fluky or what, but do you think Dinwiddie is still worth some looks?
I think he's worth a look. I still have him behind LeVert because I do buy into LeVert being the higher usage guy. That's just something that I think, kind of makes sense when they're both healthy. But Dinwiddie, he's still productive in the games that Irving has missed since LeVert came back. You're still looking at a 27% usage rate and just shy of a 36% assist percentage. So it's not like he's disappeared. He just isn't producing at the same rate that he was when LeVert was out. But you should still get around 34 minutes in one of the most appealing matchups that you can have facing the Hawks. So I still think he looks good. I do prefer LeVert by a little bit, especially on DraftKings. You can roster LeVert at small forward, and the forward positions are a lot weaker than the guard positions today. On FanDuel, LeVert is actually $100 less expensive than Dinwiddie at shooting guard. So on both sites, I do give the edge to LeVert.
Yeah, LeVert, his usage has been up to 30 over the last 5 games, and he's getting assists. So he's been winning people a lot of money. I think I'm going to wait until he slumps a little bit, his price goes down. One encouraging factor about Spencer Dinwiddie to me is that over the last 5 games, his assist percentage has been at 38 compared to 34 over the year. And generally, when you see a guy's usage go down and their assist percentage go up, there is some give and take between just in some games passing the ball more versus taking more shots. And it's not really indicative of the ball coming out of their hands more, although it does look like Overt is going to be a net negative for him. The other guys on the team look pretty nicely priced. Jared Allen, especially, 5,100, 5,200 on FanDuel, and he's been playing about 20 minutes a game over the last 5, but on the season he's at 26, and I think it's been a little bit fluky. He probably lands closer to that 26 number, more like 25 if DeAndre is healthy, but he looks like a pretty nice value to me. Are you willing to give Jared Allen a shot despite his recent struggles?
Yeah, I think that it's a really good tournament spot because it's something that I kind of missed. Like when I wrote the deep dive article earlier and hadn't, completely dug into the slate yet, I didn't look as deep or as closely at his numbers. And I think there's a chance that you'll see that from a lot of people. We only have him projected for about 10% ownership today. But, you look at the last game, he played 18 minutes against Washington. He fouled out of that game. He was in foul trouble the whole game, and then he fouled out. Played 26 minutes against Orlando in a close game. Played 25 minutes against the Hornets, lost some minutes to the blowout there. And then you had that stretch of games where he just, wasn't really getting run. But I think that, it's one of those things from like now to the end of the season. I expect Jared Allen to be playing in games where it's not a blowout and he's not in foul trouble to be getting more minutes than DeAndre Jordan. So I have him in at 26 minutes again. I think it's obviously a really good matchup against the Hawks, and his price tag is favorable.
Yeah, I like it. I think this is a guy you can take some shots on, and Jared Allen. And the rest of the team, I mean, facing up with Atlanta is always a pretty appealing spot for fantasy because of the pace. Brooklyn's projected for 120 points tonight. And the other guys, Joe Harris, Taurean Prince, Garrett Temple, they're all standing out as plays tonight for me. Are you going to take some shots on these kind of tertiary guys on Brooklyn?
Yeah, I think rotating them through, it's a spot where if you're playing a lot of lineups, you probably don't want all those guys in one lineup, but just taking advantage of this matchup and the fact that, you have a good 3-point shooter in Joe Harris, you have someone in Taurean Prince that's certainly capable of getting hot and grabbing a couple extra rebounds in this matchup, and the pricing is just really favorable. So certainly secondary options, even from this team, I would put them behind all of LeVert, Dinwiddie, and Jared Allen, but they're cheap enough that they are pretty good plays.
Nice.
One other thing to mention with Jared Allen is that he has a lot of block upside here too. Trae Young, second in the league in drives per game. And so getting Young attacking the rim gives Allen a little bit more opportunities for blocks.
Nice. I've been working on improving the block algorithm in my projections here, and I have Atlanta as about a 30% increase to blocks for whoever's playing them. So Jared Allen definitely is going to get some extra fantasy points there. I have him for 1.9 blocks, so that would be about a half a block. So that's some good points. It looks like we're going to end up on a lot of these Nets guys. And if you're riding with us, make sure to click that thumbs up on the stream, because we're severely limited in our prognostication ability if we don't get that support we need in our predictions here. At least that's what I've heard. The other side, Atlanta. We have Dwayne Dedmon out. Bruno Fernando has been getting the start. And I'm mentioning this because he's popping up as one of the most popular plays of the night somehow. He's 6th in our ownership projections at 18%. He's 3,400. Last game, he played about 22 minutes, I think. That seems like people are a little over-optimistic. We have a pretty long track record here of guys starting at center and playing about 18 minutes. What do you make of this center situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think if the ownership comes in that high, it's too high. I have him in for 22 minutes, but he started 12 games this year. And early in the last 12 games he started, the most minutes he's played is the 22 that he played against Orlando. So, I'm not expecting him to go out there and exceed that. And it makes him a decent point per dollar option. He's only 3,400, and he projects for, depending exactly how many minutes you give him, somewhere between 18 and 20 points. But the upside is pretty tough to get to, and there's obviously opportunity cost when you talk about taking up a center position as well. So I don't think that I'll be near the field at that ownership.
Yeah, same. That seems like people are just desperately grasping for any value they can get because there isn't really any so far. I did notice that Cam Reddish played a lot of minutes off the bench, but he's not super cheap. Herter, he would have been interesting if Trae Young missed this game, but Trae Young is probable now. Are you landing on any of these guys?
Yeah, I absolutely love Trae Young. He's one of my favorite plays on the entire slate. He's priced up, and that should keep his ownership down at 10.5 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's 9,700, which is obviously really appealing. But he plays huge minutes. I mean, assuming this game's competitive, you should expect around 38 minutes from Young. He's averaged 1.55 DraftKings points per minute in the 28 games that he's played with John Collins this year. The assist percentage over those games is 47.7%, and he's got a 35% usage rate. But then on top of that, this is a Brooklyn team that he should just be able to really destroy. They have allowed the 5th most pick and roll possessions per game. They rank in the 10th percentile in efficiency defending it. Trae Young leads the league in pick and roll possessions by a wide margin and ranks in the 85th percentile in efficiency. So, basically his a very large part of his game, Brooklyn has been essentially incapable of defending this year. And now you're getting, huge minutes in a fast-paced game. I think Young looks really good, especially if his ownership stays down.
I think, great player. I'm a little more tepid in my interest. I think he's a good play, but not a great one. He is an excellent fantasy option every night he's on the court, but 10.5K, that's pretty high. And we pretty much know what to expect at this point, given that we have a whole season. He has averaged 38.5 minutes per game over the last 5. But on the season, he's at 35.5, which is a little bit closer to what I'd expect, because even if a game's supposed to be pretty competitive, like this one, I have as it only being competitive until the end at only a 34% chance. Or wait, no, a 55% chance. So, there's just so much variance in, like, is the game going to be, are they going to be up 12 with 5 minutes left or something, and they get pulled their last 3 minutes? So it seems like he's been getting a little bit lucky on the minutes. But I think a great fantasy player nonetheless. Next game, Charlotte at Toronto. I think this one is notable because I think Charlotte is a team that is generally overlooked by most basketball fans because they're one of the worst teams in the league. But Malik Monk suspended for the foreseeable future, and that actually makes a big difference to me because Monk is a 25% usage guy, and he's being replaced by guys like Cody Martin, who is a 15% usage guy, and Caleb Martin about the same. So that 10% of shots when Monk was on the court for about 28 minutes, that's going to go to higher usage guys like Devontae Graham, Rozier, Miles Bridges. And I think that Rozier and Graham look like pretty decent options. I favor Graham because he's the one that didn't have the big game last game, and he tends to get more assists than Rozier. But are you interested in these Charlotte guards, and which one do you prefer?
Not too much. On FanDuel, I think they look better because they're both Graham's at 5,700 and Rozier's at 54. On DraftKings, it's tougher for me to get to them. I do obviously agree with you that there's more usage to go around now without Malik Monk. But at the same time, for most of the season, Monk hasn't been playing big minutes. So I think that the season-long rates for these guys probably isn't that much lower than you should expect with Monk being out. And then on top of that, it's obviously a tough matchup against Toronto, and it's a really, really slow Charlotte team. So I don't expect there to be a lot of possessions. So more of FanDuel plays than DraftKings plays for me.
I'm feeling Graham on DraftKings. I know he's been in kind of a slump. He's had 48% true shooting over the last 15, but 53% over the last over the season. Of course, he started off hot. But I think there's a lot of potential there, so I'm kind of in on it. And the other guy I'm looking at here, well, PJ Washington's still pretty cheap, and he has more potential to play big minutes without Monk because he could play more wing minutes. Cody Zeller, he was rested last game. Bismack Biyombo came in and played pretty well. And that could swing the tide. Maybe they start Biyombo again, but they had been starting Zeller more. And when Monk went down, I'm expecting less small ball lineups and more center time for Zeller, Biyombo, and Hernan Gomez compared to Washington. And that's leading to me getting some Cody Zeller. Do you think Cody Zeller starts this game? And if he does, is it a 2-man rotation or a 3-man?
I have Biyombo in right now, but that's just purely a guess because he started last game. I do expect it to be 2-man. I think that I think Hernan Gomez is the backup center, and then whichever of Biyombo or Zeller starts plays in the mid-20s, and then I assume you'll probably get a little bit of PJ Washington at the 5 as well.
Yeah, now that I'm looking at this, I feel like my projections, assuming Cody Zeller starts, he had been starting, but Biyombo might have moved the needle last game. So I'm going to come down a little bit on the projections. Of course, if you don't have access to the projections, make sure to use the code Deeper Dive. You can get 50% off your first weekly membership. And I'm updating these pretty much in real time as we get more information about the slate. And this is the core of my strategy along with ownership. And that this is having the most accurate projections is a big step towards winning money at NBA DFS. So make sure to use that promo code if you haven't already signed up. Toronto, I think that the Serge Ibaka status is probably one of the biggest because if he's in at 5,900 on DraftKings, he makes a pretty excellent play. He's been in a lot of foul trouble recently, so his recent game logs don't look as good as the potential without Marc Gasol. And then if he's out, I mean, we saw Rondae Hollis-Jefferson start one game. We've seen Boucher get starts in the past, so might require a little bit of guesswork. But how are you going to handle this if Ibaka's in and versus out?
If he's in, I think he looks like a really good option. Obviously, he was really disappointing last game, but still a really favorable price tag. It's a good matchup against the Charlotte team that doesn't defend in the paint well. They don't rebound well. Despite being the slowest team in the league, they've actually allowed the 9th most rebounds per game over the last couple of months, and they also are in the top 10 in blocks allowed as a result of having a driving point guard like Terry Rozier. So I think that it looks really good for Ibaka if he's in. If he's out, then you get a $3,400 Chris Boucher who has been playing the backup center minutes, may or may not start, but at basically minimum salary price tag and with power forward eligibility, I'd be willing to roll the dice on him even if he's coming off the bench. Assuming he gets like around 20 minutes or something like that. If he starts, obviously even better. If Hollis-Jefferson got the start, he would look like a really good value as well. But that's obviously something that hopefully we'll get before lock because the game starts at 7:30.
I hope you're right because this particular spot has been the source of a lot of consternation in the DFS world. I think one day we got the news that Rondae Hollis-Jefferson was going to start over Boucher about 2 minutes before lock. So with a 6:30 lock time, there's potential this could be our last-minute scramble.
It is nice that there's only the 7:30 game.
That's true. Yeah, we might have a lot of lineups that don't have any players in this 7 o'clock game. In fact, it could be a valuable strategy to just fade it, not because there aren't good plays on Orlando and Minnesota, but that just gives you more information by the time you lock in your lineup. Cleveland at New Orleans. Cleveland, Andre Drummond had been really struggling, and now he's out for mysterious reasons. And as a result, there's some value on Cleveland because Tristan Thompson's going to start. Larry Nance played big minutes in the last game. And Kevin Love is an excellent rebounder, and he also saw more minutes than he had been seeing in the last game. So how are you approaching this Cavaliers team?
I don't think that there's anyone from the Cavs that stands out as like a top play on the slate, but there's a ton of guys on this team that are like kind of in that same mold as like Joe Harris and Taurean Prince that we talked about in the Brooklyn game, where they're really useful as value to kind of fill out your lineups because this should be it's a pace up spot for Cleveland. It's not a great defensive team in New Orleans, and they're shorthanded. Obviously Drummond being out is a big deal, but then you also don't have McKinney, you don't have Exum, even though they're not great players. That's still minutes that you can give, more minutes to guys like Kevin Porter. They've been playing Larry Nance at the 3. He closed the last game alongside Thompson and Love. So it just opens the door for more playing time. So I think that, Tristan Thompson, I expect to play in the low 30s. He's a reasonable option at 5,700. I think he becomes more appealing if Ibaka sits, because he's only $200 less than Ibaka, and I prefer Ibaka, but certainly a viable option. Kevin Love gets more rebounds, or should get more rebounds, without Drummond, and you're also replacing Drummond with a lower usage guy in Thompson, so it should bump Love's usage a little bit. So he looks like a pretty decent option. Kevin Porter is still, I think, reasonably priced. They've talked about wanting him to handle the ball more. Maybe you see his assist numbers go up a little bit going forward. But I think that, Thompson, Love are the two top guys from Cleveland for me. But, you could make a case also for either of the starting guards or for Porter.
We have an interesting prediction in chat here. Encore said, Tristan gonna ball out, then cheat on Chloe tonight. I think I think Tristan is a decent play here, especially on FanDuel at 5K. That's just way too low. 5,700 on DraftKings. That's about 400 or 500 less than it should be. So you can definitely go to some Tristan Thompson tonight. Although the question mark is, before Drummond got on the team, Tristan had already seen his minutes reduced, so there is some chance that he gets benched in favor of a guy like Larry Nance. On the New Orleans side, it's been a little bit tougher to roster anyone since Ingram came back from injury. We've seen Lonzo Ball's minutes go down a little bit in favor of Drew Holiday over the past few games. At this point, I feel like it's just going to be whoever's playing better that closes. And then Derek Favors has been pretty frustrating in fantasy, but his price is really shot down. So I'm seeing Derek Favors pop up as a pretty decent value. Although you kind of have some red flags there with the minutes. He's averaged about 23 over the last 5. Do you think he's worth taking a shot on?
I think it's tough for me on this slate, especially because he's a center only on both DraftKings and FanDuel. He's someone that I've been rostering a lot of, just kind of because he's still a productive player on a per minute basis. The problem is that he's averaging just shy of 24 minutes per game since Zion came back. And he, obviously runs the risk of not being in the closing lineup. Maybe he does tonight against Thompson, but I think it's pretty tough to give him more than 24 minutes. And with center being such a good position today, and they're even being cheap guys, Jared Allen's only $300 more expensive on DraftKings. So it's tough for me to get to Favors.
Yeah, maybe a little bit thin tonight. So we actually have a very special promo today. We're going to be asking trivia questions in the YouTube chat, and whoever answers them the fastest, we're giving away $600 worth of tickets for tonight's SuperDraft contest. So if you're not already a member of SuperDraft, you can use the promo code Awesemo. Get $20 in free money for depositing $100 or more. And then we have our projections for you for SuperDraft on the site, so make sure to check those out and enter their contest at 7:30. So I find that really nice because I can work on my SuperDraft lineups right after all the lineups on the other sites lock, and it's just like you can play a little bit more fantasy, and that's what we're all here to do. Next game, Dallas and Miami. Luka is questionable. Obviously, that's going to be really pivotal as far as how we're approaching this.
We just got news that he's closer to probable, according to Carlisle.
Okay. That kind of plays into this hangover narrative that I kind of was buying into. So that's pretty reassuring that we don't have to really swap up our lineups last minute here. But Luka, since he's come back, obviously he gets a ton of rebounds, assists, and shots, and that really affects everyone else negatively. So I'm going Luka or bust here pretty much. Like I don't really see anyone other than Luka that I'm interested in. How about you?
Yeah, pretty much the same for me. I mean, it's not a great matchup against Miami. They're a decent defensive team, but they're one of the slowest teams in the league. And, it's Luka's cheap is the thing. Like he's 10-7 on DraftKings, 10-4 on FanDuel. But it's not the most appealing matchup. He is the guy that really stands out, though, because like you said, he just takes everything away from other players. He takes usage, he takes rebounds, he takes assists. The only other guy that I could really make any sort of case for assuming Luka's in, would be Porzingis. But even his price tag has come up, and on DraftKings now he's only center eligible as well.
Dang, I was hoping you'd say Michael Kidd-Gilchrist because I was waiting for a chance to play him. His usage since arriving in Dallas is at 5%.
That is not good.
Yeah, he could be the next PJ Tucker of the NBA if he can perform well. Luka, I actually have him projected a little bit lower than Trae Young tonight, and this might be the first time because Luka gets so many more boards, but his matchup versus Miami is a lot worse than versus Brooklyn. So definitely leaning towards Trae Young tonight. I take it you're feeling the same thing.
Yeah, I have them almost identical, but I have Young a little bit ahead of Luka.
Yeah. So as far as prices go, that would tip towards Trae Young.
Yep.
On the other side, though, Miami, Jimmy Butler and Bam have been terrific fantasy options this year. Now the full team is healthy: Sans, Myers Leonard, and Tyler Hero. So it's a little bit harder to get to these guys in what might be a pretty slow game. But Jimmy Butler still seems pretty cheap at around 8K on the different sites. So what are you thinking about Butler?
He's the one guy that looks appealing to me from Miami. I still don't think he's a priority for me because there's a couple of other guards in this price range that I think look a little bit better. This game as a whole doesn't strike me as all that appealing, but I do think Butler's a little bit underpriced, whereas the rest of the Miami team is priced up from when Butler missed several games. So kind of like it's pretty much Luka on the Dallas side. It's pretty much just Butler for me on the Miami side.
That's good because we got 10 games here. We don't have to waste any additional time, but Duncan Robinson, if you need some value in like a turbo slate or something, I guess he could be an option. But no Bam for you.
I don't think so. His price tag's just gotten so high. Obviously loses assists and usage when Butler comes back. And now you're talking about, like on DraftKings, he's $700 more than DeAndre Ayton, which is really tough. He's only $400 less than Vooch.
Yeah. All right. Oklahoma City and Milwaukee. Oklahoma City has been playing well this season, but Milwaukee clearly the top team to beat right now. They're a 12-point favorite. They do play at a very fast pace, but Oklahoma City is only projected for about 108 points. Now, Danilo Gallinari is out on the second night of the back-to-back here, and that's going to create some opportunities for other guys because I'm projecting Abdel Nader to fill in for Gallinari in the starting lineup. That's about a 8-point usage gap that's going to go to guys like Paul, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and then Schroeder off the bench. So does that make you interested in the Oklahoma City guys?
Yeah, it does because it's also the fastest. Milwaukee's the fastest team in the league. And then now you're getting a lot of usage to go around by taking a 24 to 25% usage guy out of the lineup in Gallinari. Like Chris Paul's played 8 games without Gallo this year, has a 26.9% usage rate. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's at 29.4%. Schroeder's at 29.5%. So I think you see usage bumps for all three of the guards because, Steven Adams isn't a high usage guy. As you mentioned with Nader, he's extremely low usage, as is Dort and Ferguson and Diallo. Basically anyone who is soaking up the minutes from Gallo is an extremely low usage guy. So the usage has to go somewhere, and I expect it to be spread out amongst the three guards primarily. So even though it is a tough matchup in terms of pace, it is a back-to-back for Oklahoma City as well. Not in terms of pace, in terms of defensive efficiency. It's a great matchup in terms of pace. But I think the salaries are cheap enough where the increased usage makes the guards all look like good plays.
I like it. I think it's a little bit different on FanDuel and DraftKings. I mentioned Chris Paul and Shai are much cheaper on FanDuel. The guy I'm really honing in on here is Dennis Schroeder. And the reason why I'm making a logical leap here that without Gallo, he's going to play a couple more minutes off the bench because on the season, he's averaged 31. Over the last 5, he's averaged about 30. Over the last 15, 32. I'm hoping he's going to average more to 32 today, so a couple extra minutes compared to his price tag. I have him about a 29% chance of a boom performance, which is 10 points above value compared to 12% ownership. Of course, you can access this on my boom bust probability tool if you're a member. That's the 4th highest chance of any player on the slate so far. That could change a lot if Ibaka's out or if there's some more guys ruled out. But how are you rating Dennis Schroeder today? Because it seems with this 12% ownership, most people just view him as a middle of the pack kind of guy.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit better than the field does. I agree with you on the minutes too. In 7 games without Gallo this year, he's averaged 32 and a half minutes per game. So I think, projecting him for around 32 minutes makes a lot of sense here. And, coming off the bench, he, like I said, 29.5% usage rate over those 7 games. I think that the price tag is just a little cheap on him.
I agree. Yeah, I like that. And then how are you going to approach this differently on FanDuel versus DraftKings with Chris Paul and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander?
I think I'll just get to more of them on FanDuel. Like they look like good plays to me on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, obviously the pricing is even softer. That obviously goes for a lot of different players, but even if I just sorting by position, I have Gilgeous-Alexander as a top 5 shooting guard. I have Chris Paul as a top four point guards. So I think that they clearly do look better on FanDuel.
Nice. And they have a 1.35 multiplier in SuperDraft, so definitely in contention there. The other guy, I keep ending up with Nerlens Noel like every single night the Thunder play. And finally last night he actually did pretty decent. I think he had a double-double. It didn't really get me to the top, but it was pretty good. And I feel like DraftKings continues to throw him a ton of shade by pricing him the way they do. He's at 3,200 tonight on a slate with pretty crappy value. He's one of the easier ones to fit in my opinion. How is Noel stacking up for you?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we have him getting a lot of ownership right now, which obviously makes it a lot less appealing to be, trying to basically run good with a backup center. But it is a strategy that you and I have talked about and that I go to a lot as well. Like last night I did it with Noel. I also did it with Alex Len, where you have these very productive backup centers that if anything happens to the starter as far as foul trouble or just weird rotation or anything, even a couple of extra minutes makes them really, really good values. And you're not drawing dead if they do only play like 18 minutes because they still can be really productive. So I certainly see why people would use Noel as value, but plays like that definitely are a lot less appealing to me once a lot of the field is doing it as opposed to a very small percentage.
Definitely, yeah. So if you're only making a few lineups tonight, Noel might not make the cut. But if you're entering a few and you're willing to take a risk, he's a good way to save some salary. So we got Milwaukee on the other side. The Thunder are a much worse matchup than vice versa. So it's making it pretty hard to get to some of these guys like Chris Middleton, Giannis. Giannis is over 11K. I think he's the most expensive player tonight. I mean, he's probably the highest projected player for me, but the price makes it hard to go there without a lot of value. Do you see yourself having a lot of bucks tonight?
I don't think so. It's a tough matchup, like you said. Oklahoma City's not a fast team. They're pretty solid defensively. They're in the bottom 10 in transition possessions allowed, which hurts Giannis. I agree with you. He's the top projected guy on the slate. But as we've mentioned several times on the show, the value at the bottom isn't really that good. So I think the fact that you have Giannis being, looking at DraftKings pricing being $900 more than Luka, being $1,100 more than Trae Young, 2 other guys, who give you 70-point upside, it makes it really tough to get to him. I think he is more favorable on FanDuel since you have more strict roster construction and the small forward position isn't really that great. And you also have so many underpriced players there. It's going to be easier to get to him.
Nice. So yeah, definitely a better play on FanDuel as far as Giannis goes. I didn't notice last game. I mean, Eric Bledsoe played 34 minutes. George Hill played 24 minutes. But they were playing Toronto, a team that starts 2 point guards. Do you think that was kind of matchup based? And then facing Shai and Chris Paul, would you expect them to play a lot together, or would you expect closer to 48 minutes combined?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really interesting that they did that. They've been pretty hesitant to do it most of the year, but I think your point about Lowry and Van Vliet is a good one. And now you're talking about an OKC team that will see probably essentially 3 point guards out there for a lot of the time with Schroeder too. So I think that, you could give Hill a couple of extra minutes again. You could give Bledsoe a couple extra minutes. I have Bledsoe at 32. I have Hill at 22. Neither projection makes them look great, but I do think you probably see them run alongside each other a bit.
Nice. So some more contrarian options you could sprinkle in there with Hill and Bledsoe. This next game, Sacramento at Memphis. Now Memphis pulled a fast one 2 nights ago. Everyone was expecting them to start Josh Jackson. They ended up starting DeAnthony Melton. And like many of you guys, I swapped on the Melton, but it didn't really work out. He didn't really play a lot of minutes, and it wasn't a very competitive game. Now, if he starts tonight again, I think he's a great play, as well as Dylan Brooks, who Melton usually takes minutes away from. But I'm a little bit worried they're going to start Josh Jackson here because otherwise they don't really have a good matchup for Bjelica at power forward. It would be Kyle Anderson or Dylan Brooks on Bjelica. So who do you think is going to start here in Memphis?
My guess is still Melton. Like I'm guessing that they'll put Anderson on Bjelica and be okay. But it certainly could be Jackson.
Yeah, so that's some a starting lineup I'm going to be keeping an eye out for. Of course, this game doesn't start until a while after lock, but be prepared to late swap. So if Melton is starting, I put him at 27 minutes in my projection because I'm not sure he's going to start. And that's kind of like towing the line between starting and bench. But he looks like a nice value play on a slate where we're kind of desperate for value. Do you think you're going to have a lot of Melton?
Yeah, I mean, not a lot as far as, like highest owned player or anything, but he does look like a pretty good value. I have him in for 26 minutes as well. It does take a usage bump when you're playing more minutes alongside John Morant, for example. But I think that, like you said, value is not great. Melton's a pretty decent per minute player. So, at 4,400, I certainly have interest.
Yeah, the assist could take a hit to allowing Morant for sure. Although he has been getting less assists since they had him as the backup wing instead of point guard. Dylan Brooks, so I see him as the biggest beneficiary of this injury to Brandon Clark right now, other than whoever starts for Clark, because previously we had Josh Jackson and Melton backing up Brooks. Now those minutes are spread out a lot more, and that's leading me to get to more like 32 minutes instead of 29 for Brooks, making him a good option. What are you anticipating will happen here for Brooks?
Yeah, I think he looks like a really good option here because it helps to solidify the minutes. We had seen when this team was fully healthy, you were seeing DeAnthony Melton just kind of be good enough to steal minutes from Brooks. And even in games where Brooks wasn't in foul trouble, you were getting a lot of 30 minutes for Brooks, 18 to 20 minutes for Melton, and they weren't playing them alongside each other all that much. Now with Clark and Jackson both being out, their options are pretty limited and they kind of have to play them alongside each other. So I think it makes it a lot easier to get north of 30 minutes from Brooks. He's a high usage guy. He hasn't been playing that well of late, but the opportunities are certainly there. And it's not like it's a great Sacramento defense either.
Nice. Yeah, I think he stands out as a great option in pretty much any lineup because of that. There's still a little bit more opportunity here. And also with Brandon Clark out, and of course, Jaren Jackson, there's some more usage to go around. Now, John Morant is another guy who could see a little bit more usage, and he has had a really high usage in the last 5 games, 27.5, about 10% higher than the season. How are you ranking John Morant tonight?
I think he looks really good. His salary just seems like it's a lot cheaper than it should be. He's only 5,800 on FanDuel. He's 66 on DraftKings, and he's someone that if you just look at game logs, his minutes don't really seem that great. But Memphis has just been involved in a lot of blowouts recently, and kind of just some weird games. So I think that assuming this game's competitive, you can get 30 to 32 minutes from Morant. And like you said, the usage has come back up. When he first came back from his injury a couple of months ago, usage was way down. But over the last month or so, it's come back up. So I think he looks like a really appealing option.
We just, some Morant, pretty good option tonight. We just got the news we were hoping for. Serge Ibaka is out tonight. So now we got to go back to this Toronto versus Charlotte matchup. Now, the Charlotte centers, Bismack Biyombo and Cody Zeller, are more Zeller is more like your traditional center, but Bismack Biyombo is quite undersized. So I'm thinking that that could lead to a Rondae Hollis Jefferson start. That is the most recent lineup we've been seeing when Serge Ibaka was out. Everyone thought it'd be Boucher, but it wasn't. Who do you think is going to start between Hollis Jefferson and Boucher here?
I think my guess is Hollis Jefferson, just because they did it last time. By the way, Fred VanVleet also out.
Man, nice.
Yeah. So and Norman Powell probable. So my guess is Hollis Jefferson. Hopefully again we get that news. I think that even if Hollis Jefferson starts, like I had said before, I think that basically a minimum salary Boucher is still a reasonable option though.
This is awesome, man. We're getting the value we needed here. So this is going to change the whole team dynamic. Norman Powell's injury was a hand injury, so he could jump all the way from being out to being in the starting lineup. If he's not, it would be Patrick McCaw. So how do you think that'll shake out?
I mean, you could also get Terrence Davis in there.
That's true, yeah.
I'm expecting it to be Terrence Davis, but Chris Middleton now questionable. I'm expecting it to be Terrence Davis, but I think that you probably do get, at least upper 20s in minutes, if not more, from Norman Powell, who's really cheap. I believe it was also his non-shooting hand, which is good news. But I think that, $4,100 Terrence Davis looks like a really good value.
All right, I'm pulling up the game log from when Ibaka was last out. But let's go to Kyle Lowry, because I feel like VanVleet being out and being replaced by either Norman Powell or Terrence Davis or McCaw, that's going to benefit Lowry a lot. VanVleet's assist percentage on the year is 27%. The highest of those guys is about 14%. And that's going to be more assists for Lowry, and that's going to put him over the edge as far as being a good value. Do you think this makes Lowry a core play?
I still wouldn't say a core play. We have 359 minutes this year of him playing alongside Siakam without Lowry. 0.98 points per minute, 20.1% usage rate, 29.6% assist percentage. Siakam still steals a decent amount of stuff from him, or stats from him. So I think that it does make Lowry better. And I also assume that Lowry's minutes will be staggered with Siakam. So he gets some time where he's not on the floor with him. But I still expect the time that he's on the floor with the starting unit to not be all that productive.
Yeah. So I'm going back to this game log. We got RHJ. He played 33 minutes. Chris Boucher played 13 minutes off the bench, much to everyone's consternation, because I think everyone expected Boucher to start that game. Now, this was against the Karl Anthony Towns center. That didn't make any sense, but it was against Karl Anthony Towns. And he's certainly more formidable than a Bismack Biyombo or Cody Zeller. So that would lead me to believe RHJ is going to start this game. So do you think RHJ is now like kind of your premier value play of the day?
Yeah, assuming he starts, I think that he is. I mean, you're talking about a productive player that if he starts, you don't really have reason to think he plays, fewer than like at least 28 to 30 minutes. So he's cheap. He's a power forward, which is nice. I think he's clearly a top value.
Nice. And then as far as Chris Boucher, what do you make of this 13-minute performance by him the last game that Ibaka was out?
I would expect that if he comes off the bench, I expect him to play whatever center minutes Hollis Jefferson doesn't play. So I would probably end up projecting something like 30 for Hollis Jefferson, 18 for Boucher. I don't think I would want to go back to 34 minutes for Hollis Jefferson necessarily. But I think that, it still would, if Hollis Jefferson starts, it would make him the preferred option to Boucher. But if you get 18 minutes of Boucher, it's still, it basically turns him into the Nerlens Noel play.
Nice. So that would be pretty appealing at his price, which is $3,400. And would you ever make a lineup with both Rondé Hollis Jefferson and Chris Boucher here?
I don't think that I would. I think it's close. Actually, no, I would, and it's because with VanVleet being out too, there's at least the potential for them to play alongside each other. I don't necessarily think they will, but it at least can happen. And also, there's a lack of value on the slate, and they're both really cheap. So I think I'd actually be okay with it.
Nice. It is something I would recommend thinking twice about. It's definitely a negative because there is some reverse correlation there. Because the easiest way for Boucher to get there is if RHJ gets played off the floor. So that's something to consider. All right, so going back to the script here on Memphis, we talked about all the Memphis guys, but Sacramento, one of the bigger situations of the day with De'Aaron Fox questionable. What's your insight on Fox, the situation there?
I'm projecting him in for now. He said that he thinks he'll be good to go. He said that the doctor said that it's not something that he can make worse by playing. So my guess is that he plays, but obviously still questionable. Didn't play last night. So hopefully we get that news sooner than later.
Yeah, this is one limitation of the injury reports is they don't really. Once you get that additional information, you have to consider that in addition to that designation, which in this case was questionable. So I think we have to treat it more like probable, as you're saying, just because we have a little bit more information here that we wouldn't normally have. So that's how I'm approaching this. And then we saw last night. I mean, it's kind of irrelevant because Fox didn't play last night. So then we're looking at guys like Bielitsa, Giles. Not a whole lot I'm seeing here, but what do you make of this Kings team?
Yeah, I mean, if Fox is in, there's really not much. If he's out, then obviously it opens up a lot, and you would have a really cheap Corey Joseph. I would go right back to Bogdan Bogdanovic, who ruined my night last night, but gets a huge bump whenever he's not playing with De'Aaron Fox. So if Fox is in, he's really the only guy from Sacramento I'm interested in.
All right, yeah, definitely not the most exciting team here, even though Memphis not a horrible matchup. Now this next game may be even worse because Detroit. Well, Phoenix is probably good, but Detroit at Phoenix. Detroit has been one of the more frustrating teams as of late. And because they're pretty low in talent right now, Phoenix is a 9-point favorite. Over-under is only 218. I'll start with Detroit. They played 12 guys last game, so not a very appealing situation for fantasy. Bruce Brown is questionable this time. He'd be one of the guys you'd look at if he plays. But do you see any diamonds in the rough on Detroit here?
I think Derrick Rose, obviously he's going to be a risky play pretty much every slate because Detroit's not playing for anything. Like you said, they had a 12-man rotation last game without Bruce Brown even playing. There's just going to be games where the rotation gets really, really ugly. But he's cheap, and even if you expect like 26 minutes from him, his numbers without Blake or Drummond on the floor are really, really good. Almost a 34% usage rate, assist percentage north of 45%. So I think that he's someone I'm willing to take a shot on. And then you got Christian Wood back in the starting lineup last game. He played 34 minutes. He's the opposite of Rose in that the Pistons should be trying to play him a lot and really figure out what they have in him. So I feel a lot more confident in his minutes in most games. And I think that where he's power forward eligible, he has some value.
Yeah, I think that Christian Wood is pretty intriguing. I'm a little bit worried that this 12-man rotation is going to foul up his minutes, so because they do have a lot of bigs with Christian Wood, Thon McCour. They have. Let me pull. I'm trying to scramble on this Toronto thing. I just updated the projections with all the race and everything. So make sure to refresh if you're using them to build alliance right now. Okay, so we got Christian Wood. They called up Kyrie Thomas, or he came off the injury report last game. He's a wing. Sekou Doumbouya, Thon McCour, John Henson, and Donta Hall is another 10-day contract guy that is big. So it's 5 guys. So what I'm trying to get to is that it's probably not going to be like more 35-minute games for Christian Wood. I have him at 30. What do you have him at?
I have him at 34. I think his minutes are probably pretty secure just because he's someone that Detroit should be looking to get a lot of minutes from. I don't think that it should be tough for them to prioritize him over Thon McCour or Hall or Henson.
I'm a little less sold in. If you have him at 34, then you probably are getting him like in pretty much every lineup because that would make him an exceptional value, right?
I'm not getting like that much. I mean, I have him as a good play. I don't have him as like a top play.
So the last game, he did play 34 minutes. It was kind of interesting because it wasn't even a close game, but there is potential for him to play that much. I'm a little nervous about this rotation here in Detroit, though. Svi Mykhailiuk, he's a guy that's getting a lot more usage now that they waived some of the other guys. He's someone that really bombed last game. Did you have what's your take on like how did Svi only play 17 minutes starting?
It's pretty concerning because that's 2 games in a row now. 2 games ago he did the thing where he started the game and then he started the second half and didn't play beyond that. Last game you had Brown out, so I thought maybe he would get more run. Didn't get it again. And this is with Dwayne Casey saying that he wants to get Svi more ball handling responsibilities and then just not doing it. So I don't really know what to make of it, but he's someone that I certainly am not giving a lot of minutes to just because of how the rotation or how deep the rotation's been.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit thin tonight. And the more that I think about it, so probably not going to go there. Just I think this Kyrie Thomas call up is pretty significant because this guy was their first round pick a couple of years ago, and that's going to make the wing position pretty clogged. All right, Phoenix. DeAndre Ayton is one of the more popular guys of the day. He's 8,100 on DraftKings, 9K on FanDuel, and then on SuperDraft. A 1.25 multiplier. Now, Detroit is not a very good rebounding team now that they traded away Drummond. So I could see Aiden getting a lot of offensive boards here. He's at 13% on the season. And as far as, I think that Kelly Oubre is another thing where he's out for the season. That should make more shots for Aiden. So do you have Aiden as one of the top plays today?
Yeah, no question. He's only 8,100 on DraftKings. He is on FanDuel. He's 9,000, but that's still pretty easy to get to. He plays huge minutes. In 4 games since coming back from his injury, he's played at least 35 in 3 of them. He was in foul trouble in the other one. So I don't really see any reason not to think he's getting at least 35 or 36 minutes here. Like you said, it's a really weak front court in terms of defense and rebounding. He's a productive player. He's been north of 1.2 DraftKings points per minute for the season. Gets a little bit of a usage bump without Oubre as well. So he's one of my top plays regardless of position.
Nice. Yeah, definitely some good signs for Aiden here with the injuries and the matchup. And then Booker's another guy that I think really stands out. He stands to benefit as far as usage with Kelly Oubre being out. And his price is really, really low at 7,800 and 7,500 on DraftKings FanDuel. On SuperDraft, the 1.25 multiplier, that's still a little bit closer to where I think he should be. Is Booker cracking all your lineups tonight?
Yeah, I think that he's just essentially mispriced. You're talking about someone that over the last couple of months has a 31% usage rate that should only go up without Oubre. For the season without Oubre on the floor, it's around 33%, and he plays huge minutes as well. So, the only negative is that Detroit is the second slowest team in the league. They're only faster than Charlotte, but the huge minutes, the role that he plays in the offense, and the fact that the role should get even a little bit bigger without Oubre makes it really tough to get away from Booker.
Nice. Yeah. So, as far as blowout concern, I think there is some because Detroit is pretty weak, but I only have it at about 15% chance. The spread is about 10. So, how do you factor in blowouts at all in your lineups?
Not too much. Obviously, I try not to give too high of a projection in terms of minutes, but one reason that I don't really concern myself with it too much is when you're talking about, in this case, Phoenix, you're talking about the team that presumably would be winning. For them to blow out Detroit, there's a really good chance that their players are producing at a above average rate in terms of a per minute basis. So if I were to adjust the minutes down, then because I'm using medium projections, I'm going to end up under projecting where they would get to even in a blowout in terms of points.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's one point I think goes overlooked a lot is that the production when a team blows out another team is much higher per minute for each of the guys on average. Now, last night I ended up regretting some of the lineups I made because I had 4 Philadelphia Sixers and then no Knicks. And then you start straying into territory where it's a little bit harder to succeed. And that's one advantage of hand building versus using the mass multi-entry tools. But one thing you can do is you can set a max number of players per team to compensate for that. All right. On Milwaukee, we mentioned Chris Middleton is questionable. If he is out, do you think Dante DiVincenzo would get the start or would it be someone else?
I think it would probably be DiVincenzo, but they have it could be Connaughton. They have so many wings that it's hard to say, but my guess would be DiVincenzo.
So the main takeaway here would be that Giannis might be a better play. Is that what you think?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about someone in Middleton that's around a 24.5, 25% usage guy. Taking him off, obviously it's more usage. It's even more offense for Giannis. I think that Bledsoe would get a bump in terms of his usage as well.
All right, cool. So maybe a little bump for Giannis and Bledsoe. Giannis, superior fantasy play today, in my opinion. All right, and then I left off one guy in Phoenix because Saric, of course, we played him last game when we got the news Oubre's out. Today's 4,800 on DraftKings, but only 3,800 on FanDuel. So he's grading out as a pretty strong value on FanDuel. Do you see yourself getting him on FanDuel, or would you have any on DraftKings?
I think FanDuel, he obviously looks a lot better. I don't think I'll really get there on DraftKings. The issue on FanDuel, though, is just that there are so many cheap guys on that site that I don't really know, how necessary he is. Even factoring in that price, I have several power forwards ahead of him because you have Jared Allen at power forward as well. So I think definitely a better option on FanDuel. Just still not sure how much you need.
All right, we just got some news. This one could have easily slipped by some of you guys. So make sure to watch these starting lineups as they come in every night. So the news is that Bruno Fernando is no longer in the starting lineup for the Hawks as Cam Reddish tonight. That's going to take Fernando pretty much out of consideration for me. I know he's a pretty popular player before that. Do you think you could still land on Fernando?
No, I mean, I wasn't really going to get to a whole lot of him anyway. And then now, obviously, I expect the playing time to be lower.
Nice. And then Reddish is standing out as kind of a guy you can play, but the value is good, but not great. Washington at Utah. Utah is a pretty tough matchup. They're a 10-point favorite. Washington plays at a really fast pace, though, so maybe we can find some values on the Utah side. But on the Washington side, pretty much everyone's healthy, and therefore no one's really standing out a lot. Bradley Beal, he's a good enough player that you could take him any day, but just average play to me tonight. Is there anyone on the Wizards you're thinking of tonight?
Beal's the most appealing just because we're seeing him since he came back from his injury, just play it a whole nother level. Since coming back, his drives per 36 have gone up by 3 drives per game. His usage rate's 38.5%. Granted, Washington is getting healthier, but it's just not a lot. There's not really anyone that's a high usage guy outside of Beal. But that being said, it's just still tough to get to him because, you have Booker, who's cheaper, who we talked about. You have Trae Young, who's not that much more expensive. It's not a great matchup against Utah, although they have been really, really bad lately. It's not something I expect to continue. So if I'm playing 150 lineups, I'm fine getting some Beal, but I don't think he's someone that I'd be prioritizing in my 3 max stuff.
All right, we just got a lot of people in here in chat saying that RHJ and Powell are starting. I'm going to just double check that that's official news and not just conjecture here. All right, so Utah, we got Mike Conley benched, and then he was in the starting lineup before the game even started last game, so that was kind of fun. He looks pretty appealing versus Washington. Pretty much anyone on the team looks good, but especially Conley on DraftKings as well as Gobert. These guys haven't really produced that big recently, but the potential is pretty nice tonight as far as their price point. Do you see yourself landing on Conley and Gobert?
Yeah, it's a nice pace up spot for Utah. It's a terrible Washington defense. Really good pricing on Conley at 5,100. He hasn't been very good this year. He's only averaged 0.86 DraftKings points per minute, but it is a good spot. It is a good price tag, and I expect more than 30 minutes from him. Gobert has been struggling a little bit recently as well, but still should play big minutes, assuming that Washington's able to hang in this game, and he should have plenty of rebounding opportunities against this weak front court.
Nice. Yeah, so Gobert is a good opportunity here. Especially against Mahimi as the starter. He should be more in his zone where he's playing closer to the basket. We did get the news that RHJ and Powell are starting, so I'm kind of anticipating Powell to jump right into a 30-minute a night role since it's a hand injury. Do you think there's any reason to be wary about rostering Powell tonight?
I don't think so. I mean, him starting to me is a sign that he's good to go. We know that Nick Nurse likes to run his starters a ton of minutes. And yeah, I think that him starting just kind of alleviates the minutes concerns.
Nice. So definitely a guy you can put in your lineup tonight with Norman Powell. All right, going back to Utah. So Donovan Mitchell and Bojan, Bogdanovic are both kind of priced appropriately on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, Donovan Mitchell's at 7,300. He always creeps into my lineup because he's a shooting guard, and that position is always somewhat weak. And then Bojan Bogdanovic is 4,800. That's like really cheap for a guy that averages about 30 fantasy points a game in a great matchup. And although there's no injuries on this team, I'm kind of liking these guys. You see yourself landing on any of the other guys on Utah?
Yeah, I think Mitchell looks like a pretty solid option. It's tough to. It would be tough to put him like ahead of Devin Booker, but it does because of where Booker's priced. Maybe it drives Mitchell's ownership down a little bit. Bojan Bogdanovic should get plenty of open threes against this team, so I think that they look like pretty high upside plays.
All right, we just got some more news in chat here. Van Jones says Gobert will be in foul trouble tonight. Does that change your opinion?
Jan Mahinmi known for drawing fouls. So,
yeah. So maybe I might use this magic 8-ball to come up with one of those projections. All right, Denver at Clippers. All right, so Denver, they've pretty much gotten back to full strength here. Honestly, I'm not really that interested. The Clippers are the best team in the league, or one of the best, if not the best. Barton, he's kind of cheap for a guy that plays 30 minutes a night, but we've been saying that Mason Plumlee would take minutes away from Nikola Jokic, and last game we saw that materialize. And then Millsap and Grant are it's 50-50 who plays more on a given night. How are you tackling this Nuggets team?
I don't think that there's a whole lot here. Like you said, the Clippers are a really, really good team. They're good defensively. Jokic has been losing those minutes. He's obviously someone that can go off any given game. But if I'm looking at that price point and just trying to, get a really high upside guy, I would rather go to Beal, for example. Plumlee just, makes the minutes too insecure for me. Will Barton is cheap, but again, with this team fully healthy, you have Jamal Murray, you have Jokic as high usage guys. Barton isn't quite as productive, and it is a tough matchup. So if I got to anybody from Denver, I think it would be Jokic or Barton, but still not really that interested.
Yeah, I agree. One guy I noticed played a lot of minutes last game is Michael Porter, and he's dirt cheap tonight, but that's not something we can really count on unless he's just balling out the first half. On the other side, we got the news after a lock last game that Paul George was on a minutes limit, as well as Patrick Beverley. I kind of like George on FanDuel a couple nights ago, but tonight, this matchup versus Denver, pretty slow pace game. And I'm finding nothing much to like on this Clippers team. But how about you? Do you find any plays here?
Not really. I mean, if I were to go to anything, it would be George or Kawhi. But Kawhi is really similar to pretty much what I just said about Jokic, where I think that he's got a ceiling, but with this team fully healthy, it's really tough to prioritize him. George is really cheap, so there is some appeal there just on the chance that, this time he's not on a minutes limit and that you get a few extra minutes. But still, there's just so many good plays on the slate where you have with this fully healthy Clippers team, there's just so many mouths to feed.
Yeah, absolutely. In the late slate, it'll be kind of interesting to see because none of these late games really have great plays aside from Detroit Phoenix. But we have 5 minutes left. Let's move on. We've covered all the games. Let's go back and look at some ownerships. And we just got the ownership update. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson on DraftKings is at 52% projected ownership. On 50%, on FanDuel, 50%. Would you buy? Do you think that's too high, too low, or just right?
I think with the lack of value, it's pretty reasonable. Like, he's still really cheap. The one thing that I would point out is that, you do have the direct backup in Boucher, who has, the power forward eligibility as well. So in large field tournaments, it's certainly a strategy to consider, just going to the much, much lower owned Boucher instead of Hollis-Jefferson and hoping to kind of just run good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Boucher is only 7% owned in our projected ownership in the last run. And what we'll see in these situations where the starting lineup's in flux, I think we've seen Toronto do this on more than one occasion, is the guys who start the first half and the guys that start the second half or finish the game aren't always the same ones. So if Boucher is balling out and Rondae Hollis-Jefferson isn't really performing, there's a so 52-7, that's like a 7-to-1 ratio of people that have RHJ versus Boucher. So there's a big risk reward there.
Yeah, and I think that even like thinking about the matchup, you're going to get Boucher out there against Guillermo Hernan-Gomez. Boucher has a really good chance of playing really well when he's on the floor, so maybe he gets a little extra run.
All right, so going down the list, Norman Powell, another guy we've been hyping up. This is before we got the news that Norman Powell was going to start. So I'm feeling this 8% ownership is going to go up to more like maybe 20, 25%. But would you buy in at that kind of ownership?
Yeah, I think that he's cheap enough that I expect him to play north of 30 minutes, so it's fine.
Nice. So would you rate these Toronto guys as kind of the best values on tonight's slate, given that we don't have a ton of injuries?
Yeah, I think so. Especially, I mean, you have Hollis-Jefferson against a weak front court, which is nice. A pretty weak defensive Charlotte team anyway. The only downside is that they play really slow, but these guys are so cheap that that's not really a concern.
All right, guys, make sure to give us a thumbs up so this chalk doesn't bust tonight like we saw with Pirtle the other night. And then we do have a promo going on that we are going to be giving away $600 of SuperDraft tickets in the Live Before Lock segment of the show, so stay tuned. They have a big tournament locking at 7:30 tonight, and if you don't have the membership to get all these tools we've been talking about on the show, make sure to use the code DeeperDive. That'll give you 50% off your first weekly membership. So Adam, we've talked about all the players. From a larger context, what's your general approach going to be on tonight's slate?
Getting to a lot of the Toronto guys since so many minutes and usage and everything opened up there. Trae Young, I still absolutely love as far as top priced players, and then Ayton and Booker, I think is good chalk as well.
Absolutely, yeah. There's some good plays to start off your lineup with RHJ, with Norman Powell, and then Booker, Ayton. Those are great plays. I agree. Make sure to get Bruno Fernando out of any lineups. He's pretty much not a play at this point. And then, honestly, for the rest of the guys, the margin is going to be very thin. So we always stress, or I always stress that you want a couple contrarian plays in each lineup, along with these best plays of the night if you're in an GPP tournament. So make sure to find some of these guys that might have a higher potential than they're getting owned. And if you go to the Boom Bust tool, I'm picking out some here. We got Kevin Porter, 5% owned, 21. Oh, wait, sorry. This is Chris Paul. For some reason, Chris Paul is not getting any ownership, even though Gallinari's out. Only 5% ownership versus a 21% chance of being a boom play. Devontae Graham is another guy I really like as a contrarian play. No Malik Monk. And guys, stay tuned. We got Chris Spags and Josh Engelman on Live Before Lock. Good luck tonight.
what's up, guys? You should be starting up now. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Awesemo.com Live Before Lock show. We've got ourselves a 10-game NBA DFS slate today, one that's changing right under our feet as we get ready to do this show. I'm Chris Spags, joined once again by my Friday pal, the Chubster Josh Engelman. How are you doing, Josh?
I'm pretty good. This slate was boring as hell 45 minutes ago, and then the injury well, I guess a half hour ago, then the 5:30 injury report came out and lit it all on fire. So now I'm excited.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about here, but one thing we want to make sure to hit on up top is it is a Super Draft show here. It's a Super Draft world. Josh, do the song. What's
Super Draft?
I say song like you had a whole song and dance prepared, which would have been great.
I don't have that.
But Super Draft doing a big giveaway right now in our YouTube chat comments. All you have to do, pay attention in there. We're going to be asking trivia questions to give away $600 in tickets to their Jump Shot, the big tournament for them up top today. And a lot of money going around on Super Draft. Yesterday, there was like $3,000 in overlay. The tournament didn't fill, but today, let's do our best to fill this one. There's $10K up top to first place, a guaranteed prize pool of $40,000 right now. There is about 2,700 entries left to go on Super Draft, so you can either get your free ticket by answering trivia questions in our YouTube chat, or you can go to superdraft.io or download Super Draft from the App Store. If you use the promo code Awesemo10, AWESEMO10, get yourself $10 free just for signing up with no deposit. Get $20 free if you deposit under $100. You get over $30, or get $30, not over 30. You get $30 flat if you deposit over 100 right now at superdraft.io. So use that promo code Awesemo10. Get in on the Jump Shot. I mean, Josh, you are playing on a lot of different sites, but tell people real fast, because I try to do my Sally Struthers infomercial spiel as much as I can, but what's the value in tournaments like this on Super Draft where there actually might be overlay, at the very least, no rake?
Yeah. Excuse me. First and foremost, it's a really great contest. Getting 10K up top on a $3,800 or 3,800 person field is pretty nice to see. If this does not get to 3,300 people, then you're getting legitimate overlay. Anything from 3,300 to 3,800 and filling, you're going to get reduced rake. And that is the biggest benefit that you can find in this industry. Anytime that you can just stop paying, it's like going to the bank and them being like, do you want this account where you'll pay, or do you want this loan where you'll pay 2% interest or 5% interest? It's like, well, I want the 2% interest. You'll just lose less money in the long term. Full stop. You want to be playing in any situation, no matter where you can find it, where you can get into a contest where the entire field isn't filled. And this is an okay shot, but even if it fills, 10K up top, $12 entry fee. It's a really nice contest.
No, it is a good contest. And again, 10K up top, that's matching one of their biggest tournaments that they've had on there, doing a lot more with money up top there, but also, again, 40K guaranteed. And there have been days recently, I'm just like legitimately saying this for the benefit of you guys, people just made money putting entries in. You could have not even picked players and you would have won a little bit of money on Super Draft yesterday. It's dumb not to take advantage of it. I'm not calling you dumb, the person watching this, but it's fundamentally a not great principle if you are trying to build your bankroll and play DFS and make money. So that is what I am suggesting for you is right now going to superdraft.io or downloading SuperDraft in the App Store using that promo code Awesemo10. And again, watch the chat. Trivia questions going. First person who gets it right is going to win some tickets today, $600 in tickets for Super Draft. So check it out. And the Super Draft show, of course, coming at the end, full half hour talking just Super Draft and basically building a lineup for you. So we are making this as simple as possible for you to win money on Super Draft today. All right, Josh, let's talk about. Well, actually, hit the like button because this is gonna be a hell of a show. Josh, what are you doing with Toronto? What's happening for you? Because I have to say, I adjusted some things, getting a lot more Kyle Lowry and Siakam, and I also find it hard not to get Rondé Hollis-Jefferson. And I'm going to take a little Chris Boucher. Why not? A little ceremonial Chris Boucher, because we know he's busted as a chalk play before where he hasn't picked the start when people thought he would. He's definitely not starting today. It is Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, along with Norman Powell as well, starting for Fred VanVleet. What are you getting out of Toronto here going against a slow-paced but defensively very unsound Charlotte team?
Yeah, so obviously I'm playing, or not obviously, but I'm just playing FanDuel. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson will be in pretty much every lineup. I got 98.7% right now. Siakam around 40%. I don't have all that much Kyle Lowry, though, and I'm kind of looking into why. But I do like Trae Young a bit. I do like Spencer Dinwiddie a bit. I still have De'Aaron Fox in. He's getting a little bit of love. So I think I'm just like slowly but surely getting away from Kyle Lowry because I think he's just a hair over owned now. We'll see where that ownership goes. Not that I don't like him or anything. I still have him projected for like 40 fantasy points, but it's the only piece of this that I'm not getting like a ton of. I even got a lot of Norman Powell as well.
Oh, okay. So Powell, I was curious your thoughts on him because he is getting the start. He's coming back into the lineup, and I think he's had a hand injury. So the expectation is cardio-wise, he should be there. It's not like a leg or a knee or anything like that where he's meaningfully lost minutes. But I guess if you were to try to rank these guys, Hollis Jefferson, I'm with you. I think I'm trying to cram in wherever I can. I had a good amount of Ibaka before that news came out, and pivoting over to that as we speak. But if you were to rank these guys, accounting for ownership and all that, how would you try to rank them? Obviously, you're going off the top of your head, so don't take this as gospel.
I'm going to be speaking from a FanDuel perspective. So RHJ, Siakam, Powell, Lowry.
Okay, so man, Lowry behind Powell. I get that. I mean, relative to the prices, and Lowry's price on DraftKings certainly no discount either. But Lowry's just crushed whenever there hasn't been another Van Vliet type player in there. And vice versa. Van Vliet without Lowry, just so much more ball dominance, a lot more assist upside for Lowry as well as Siakam. I feel like you want to get some Lowry in there. But ownership, I get it.
You can only have so many Raptors.
That is true. Especially playing against Charlotte, one of the slowest paced teams in the league. Things probably not going to materially uptick there. Over the past month, they've gotten even slower, which not a great sign for Charlotte. But it's Toronto at home, a very high firepower team who's got a lot of guys to throw at them. I guess one question I'll ask you: do you think this? Do you think there's any blowout risk here? Because it was a 14-point spread before all this news came out, and I think Toronto's one of those teams, kind of like Milwaukee, where even if they have one guy, they still have more than enough dudes to throw at you that this could get out of hand still.
I mean, sure. It's not something that's changing any part of my process.
Yeah, no, I figured. I just want to make sure to touch on that because that is a large spread. But still, Awesemo and Adam talked about it on the deeper dive right before us. There is going to be a lot more production permitted if these guys do go off. And once again, Charlotte giving up a 111 defensive rating on the year, even though they are playing slow. You're going to get a lot of clean looks for a lot of guys today, and that's going to help out all the boats here to rise along with the tide. If you were to eschew that Rondé Hollis-Jefferson value in particular, is there anybody you're getting out? Otherwise, a value play is popping up a lot. I know Bojan Bogdanovic, a big play on FanDuel today where his price makes a lot more sense going against Washington. But anybody value-wise you're getting a lot besides Rondé?
Saric is 3,800. I think that's interesting. Not really anybody. Norm Powell, I guess he's 4,200. There's not really anybody else in that like low threes area that seems to be standing out. I like Tristan Thompson on FanDuel. Double the field there, but he's 5K.
Yeah, Tristan looks good on both sites, but certainly a better discount on FanDuel. DraftKings, I was talking about it with Josh before we came on the air, where I really do not like James Ennis at all, but he was a guy we had projected in the morning for over 20% ownership, has been getting the minutes for Orlando. And I was just like, I guess I have to play some James Ennis. So that's something I'm now fully getting away from. I guess, is there anybody who jumps out to you on DraftKings as a value? Then I know you're not playing there, but anybody besides Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, and Powell's not quite as much of a discount on DraftKings, but I think he's still fine on a per minute basis, enough to get in there.
I probably desperately need to update my target scores for DraftKings because I have not been because of not playing there. So give me a minute and I can actually answer some DraftKings questions.
Yeah, just kind of curious on your thoughts there because Lord knows we all need the help today on DraftKings, but no obvious values quite as much, in the Rajon Rondo tier besides Hollis-Jefferson today. So if you are worried about finding the Rondo or the Jakob Poeltl of the other day, when the assumption was he would start before that went south, there is still a lot of guys out there who are not priced very cheaply and going to offer you a big amount of upside. And Boucher is the one guy I feel like could really take a dart toss. I would say for Toronto, I don't mind taking dart tosses at Matt Thomas and Terrence Davis as well. Just two guys will get more run in that second unit, more opportunity. Especially with Powell being in the starting group now. I do think those guys have at least a shot to do something today, but certainly not ones to have a ton of.
So I don't mind Boucher at 3,400 on DK. RHJ obviously stands out as the top of the heap. I like the Anthony Melton for 4,400. I don't really love paying all the way down for anybody, at least not on DK, outside of RHJ.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So we'll see. Knowing how the slate goes, we are still waiting on news on De'Aaron Fox. So that's certainly one play that could open up Corey Joseph again after he had a big day yesterday. Freaking Bogdanovich shooting 14 times, playing terribly. Could have had a big day there. Didn't do it, but Corey Joseph would certainly be in action again if De'Aaron Fox were out.
Yeah.
I guess I'll ask you because you are playing on FanDuel. How are you handling De'Aaron Fox today? Because he does look like a pretty well projected play going against Memphis. I'm actually not sure about his FanDuel price offhand, but just let's talk in the more theoretical way.
Yeah, he's 7,200 on FanDuel, only projected for 10% ownership as of right now. I have about double, if I remember correctly. I'm treating him like he's in. He said that he felt like he could play, so I'm going to take that at face value.
Yeah, that's how I would handle it too. It did seem like he was just resting on the front end of the back-to-back. I'm not playing any Corey Joseph. Do have a little bit of De'Aaron Fox on DraftKings. Certainly, you can actually swap on DraftKings as well as SuperDraft, another late swap site. So if you want to put Fox in there for those sites, you're taking on a little bit less risk. But obviously, if Fox is in, we'll let you guys know as soon as we can. Who would you say is a priority play for you? Like just your number one guy who's the highest priority play for you on FanDuel. Now you have a little more money to spend with Rondé Hollis-Jefferson giving you some comfortable room there, as well as Norman Powell on FanDuel. Who are you spending up on as your top play overall besides those guys?
That would be Giannis.
So is that accounting for the possibility of Middleton being out?
Yeah, I took Middleton out.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Just because of the late downgrade?
Yeah. We'll see where that ends up. It's not like I'm not thrilled about that decision, but at the same time, I don't really feel like I have much of a choice. So yeah, Giannis has now become a guy that I didn't think I was going to get a lot. At least, well, I didn't think that I was going to get a ton on FanDuel. I figured I'd have like 20, 30%. Now I think that number is going to be wildly different.
Yeah, I mean, Giannis, I thought looked like a decent enough play today, especially against the Thunder team who does play slow and competently enough that I think they can hang in this game and not get completely dusted. But not having Middleton in there, I mean, I didn't actually look up the rates because NBA Wow, he was working a little bit slow for me before, and I was really trying to get my Raptors rates right. But do you have any idea offhand on how much Giannis is affected by this? Like, obviously, the expectation is you lose a guy like Middleton who's shooting 15 times a game. There's going to be more to go around for everybody. But how does it affect Giannis? Do you know?
I didn't look.
Okay. I'm going to say good. I'm going to say mostly good for him.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about it all that much.
Sure. Yeah, he already projects well enough with Middleton in, so you don't need to adjust much there to get. I'm curious from an intellectual standpoint. Actually, Wowie's working a little better now. Let's see. With Middleton off, come on. It loaded so fast with nobody. All right, well. Oh, here we go. Giannis's usage goes up to 39%. So that is a slight uptick. Bledsoe's usage goes up to 26. Are you getting any Bledsoe then if you're just accounting for Middleton and pretending like he's out?
That's a good question. Let me see. Let me refresh. I just got my last crunch. I have 15%, which is where the field is.
Anybody else popping up for the Bucks because of it?
Doesn't look like it.
Interesting.
Just 70% Giannis.
Rinpack saying, drink each time Josh says wildly. So Rinpack has observed one of your verbal crutches. How does it feel, Josh, to have one after all this time being mine pointed out over and over again?
Not great.
I guess you do say wildly a decent amount. It's not one that would have jumped out to me, though. Did wildly didn't shake out for me, Josh.
I didn't think about it.
Now you'll know. I've been watching my ums lately because I've been doing too many ums. I got rid of most of my likes. I said there instead of so that's much better. Got rid of most of my likes, but is one that if we're gonna be professional broadcasters, Josh, move up, get the call up to Fox Sports 1. We got to do this right.
You don't want me to tell you any others, do you?
Oh, no, please no. I know, but overall, I've got a lot. Maybe for the SuperDraft show, we'll delve into that a little bit more when we give out the lineup and we're like, oh crap, still got to fill 15 minutes here. Looking at the questions here. All right, not doing either ors right now, so don't even ask them because that's just not happening.
No.
But if you have any general questions, drop it in. Which game do you feel like you're getting the most guys from? Because there are a lot of spots here. There's Atlanta playing at home against Brooklyn. Do you like a lot of the guys there? Washington also playing at Utah. Utah certainly getting a big boost there. Which game do you feel like you're getting the most guys out of besides that Toronto game?
That's a good question. I have no idea. Like individual players?
No, just like, is there a game you're getting more guys out of? Like, I'm just curious if you're getting, the pace ups are leading to more guys, because Utah, I think you can make an argument for a good amount of guys there. I think kind of similarly for Brooklyn, though their prices are a little more appropriate. Orlando as well, playing against Minnesota, who's now shooting at one of the fastest paces in the league, according to Unpredictable.com over the last month. I'm just wondering if any of these guys are like getting a lot of, like, let's say one Orlando Magic player in every lineup or something like that.
No, I don't even know if I have one Orlando Magic player outside of Vooch. The Suns, I guess, are probably the ones that I'm getting the most. Ooh, cool. I get to ban somebody quickly. Get out of here permanently.
Oh, that is so much spam.
Goodbye.
Yeah, don't paste the same thing 100 times in. That's
I would say the Suns are probably the team that I'm getting the most of. Chris
Booker
Middleton out.
Oh, there we go. All right, so
good. I don't have to fix anything.
Man. All right, so that means, let me just see. Just to update fully on the Middleton numbers without him. So Giannis on a fantasy per minute basis doesn't take the hugest jump. Still just 1.95 fantasy points per minute in terms of DraftKings points. But Bledsoe, though, at 1.3, he does seem like the dude who takes the biggest uptick in terms of opportunity, just on the overall.
What's Bledsoe shooting from 3 in that situation?
What's he shooting from 3?
Yeah, with whatever you're looking at.
Well, his usage is at 26% with no Middleton. Distance, let's see. I actually never look at this one. So where is it under distance on WoW?
It should be on the first screen you look at. Oh wait, that's my own personal stuff. I assume it's on shooting. It's on shooting.
It's spoiled.
It's on shooting.
Shooting, I see usage, true shooting, effective field goal percentage. I do not get 3-point.
Scroll down.
Oh, in the bottom part. There you go. Okay.
I can see how 3-point percentage would be grouped somewhere other than shooting.
Well, no, it's underneath, like, because they have the two different tables. That's why.
I only have my custom table at this point.
Oh, well, fancy boy.
Yeah.
Let's see. He shoots. He shoots 37%. Is that of the time, or is that of the
3P percentage sign is the one you're looking for?
No, 3A percentage sign.
No. That's percentage of threes attempted.
3P is going to be 36.8. 3A is 44.
Okay. 3P percentage sign is his 3-point percentage.
Okay, there we go. I honestly never. Do you look at this regularly?
Yeah.
Huh. All right. Fair enough. Well,
I mean, I took 3-point percentage out and put it in my custom view so that I could see it without having to do this rigmarole. But yes.
Yeah, I mostly just worry about the usage, rebounding, and assists. I don't look too deeply at the other ones. But I guess
I don't like looking at the fantasy points, so I want to know the components.
All right, fair enough. I'm curious your thoughts. Just got a question from XXX Achilles XXX asking about your Dinwiddie interest on FanDuel. I'm curious about your thoughts on Brooklyn overall, because I still like Karis LeVert on DraftKings. Just his usage has been over 31% since Kyrie went out in this recent stretch. The other day, he got there in a big way against Washington. Talked about him in all the content pieces I did that day. Just didn't get the low ownership. Today, though, the price is certainly going to be a little mitigating on DraftKings, but definitely not so much on FanDuel. How are you feeling about LeVert and Dinwiddie and these Nets getting a pretty big pace up in Atlanta?
I'm not excited about it, but I've got a lot of Dinwiddie and a lot of Karis LeVert.
I agree with both takes. Which would you favor if you had to choose one? I guess with the prices being that close, you might not actually have a lean.
I prefer LeVert on FanDuel just because I think point guard is deeper today, and I have slightly more LeVert than I do Dinwiddie, but I'm not super stoked about having both of them.
Oh, also, I got a notification here from our social media guy, Brett. Trivia will be starting in the YouTube chat at 6:30 Eastern time, and there'll be a trivia question every 5 to 10 minutes or so. And the last 2 questions are coming a little bit after 7 p.m., so hang on to the SuperDraft show if you want to get some last-minute tickets in there. I'll be literally tell you a lineup to build, but pay attention to the chat coming up in about 8 minutes, because there are going to be some trivia questions in there. Answer them as fast as you can. Probably no time to Google based upon the results we've had, so cheating probably not going to help you out in this one. Just throw something out there probably. Would you play LeVert on DraftKings at all with this price where it is? Because he's up now over 8,300, and I feel like he and Aaron Gordon are two guys. Gordon's still getting ownership, LeVert not so much, but two guys who've taken pretty big price jumps, but two guys who've also just been murdering it over the last month or so.
Yeah, I assume I would have a little bit, probably maybe in the 10% range, a little bit more than the field.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I like Levert still. I think if you can get there, a little bit tougher with Booker, Lowry, Siakam at that price point, Ayton as well. I do think it gets a little bit tougher to get a lot of those guys, but I feel like Levert's a strong play. And you said no Magic interest, so I'm going to assume no Aaron Gordon would he would just not be a play for you at all in DraftKings.
No, he would not.
Okay, fair enough.
He is not a play for me on FanDuel, if that helps.
Okay, it doesn't, but I appreciate the completion and the completiveness of that. Any other nets popping up for you because of just the pace of this matchup, a pretty high total? I'm surprised you're not getting any Orlando, by the way, just because Vegas giving them a 16-point boost on their usual scoring average, and I feel like that's usually what makes guys pop for me whenever Vegas is given a really big cosign on them just producing a lot more than usual.
Vooch is the only guy that I'm getting to.
All right. And no other nets, none of the wing kind of flotsam guys.
Maybe a little bit of Torian Prince.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I feel like those guys always pop up a little bit for me. Certainly not guys that I'm dying to have by any stretch. But it does seem overall like there's going to be more production to go around for both Brooklyn and for Utah today for some of their tertiary players, just because of the pace of those games and really, really weak defenses going across on the other side of them. Here's a game I'm curious your thoughts about, and if you got anybody at all, because it does seem like one of the spots you might target. And this Miami team, we saw it the other day. I'm spoiling it now. Miami team going against Minnesota. My boys Beasley and Russell both went off in that game, made it a really high scoring game when you would expect that to probably not go that way. I feel like Dallas and Miami is a little bit overlooked just because you have two really obvious guys to go with Luka and Jimmy Butler. If you want to get weird, go to Kristaps Porzingis and Bam Adebayo. I do think those guys are also in decent spots here in a game I would think stays competitive. You getting any of the key guys here in Dallas and Miami, or I guess any of the superfluous guys either?
No, this game is essentially non-existent to me. Only Luka and Jimmy Butler make my DraftKings player pool. On FanDuel, it's only those two plus Jay Crowder. This game might as well not exist as far as I'm concerned.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, I have a little bit of Luka. I have a little bit of Jimmy Butler. Like I like those two guys, but the rest of that game is a tire fire as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. I think it's hard to get to any of the other pieces for sure. I just feel like whenever you have two kind of obvious alpha dog type plays, like it's kind of the same thing with Atlanta with Trae Young, who I'll ask you about in a second. But I feel like when you have Luka and Butler in there, they're really guys you can imagine going head to head in this game here. The game stays competitive down the stretch, and I think to a similar extent, but not quite to the same level. Same thing with Porzingis and with Bam. I think it sort of appeals to me just to have those two guys in the same lineup and hope that it kind of works for both of them at the same time. Not what I'm doing a lot of, but I do think Butler's price on DraftKings is kind of appealing, and Luka too, relatively cheap because he just hasn't had many competitive games lately.
I prefer Trae Young to Luka on DraftKings, so I would be getting more there.
Fair enough. Let's see here. Looking at the questions. Gotten questions coming in here about New Orleans. I'm actually curious your thoughts here. Another game with a pretty high combined total, 235 for Cleveland heading into New Orleans. New Orleans getting a 123.5 points here, so one of the highest totals on the slate. Brandon Ingram's a guy popping up a lot for me on DraftKings, but I'm also getting some Zion. Derek Favors, pretty good value on DraftKings, but how's the FanDuel part of the equation for you?
Yeah, I was getting a lot of Brandon Ingram earlier. I'm trying to calibrate that a little bit because Alex is a bit more pessimistic than I am. So right now I'm close to double what we're projecting. I'm not super excited about it just because I haven't liked how he's been playing as of late. But for right now, he is my third most exposed small forward behind Giannis and Siakam.
It's just tough because there are some days like we saw him really push that usage up against a former team in the Lakers. And you saw him do a lot more there. He had 33% usage in that game. And there are some times too where he does act a little more passively, does let guys like Drew and Zion do more when he's on the court. But his price point still works. He hasn't been priced up to where he was before, and he's staggered enough away from Zion where I think he's fine. I presume though you would not be cool playing Ingram and Zion together, or maybe you would. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have any issue with it.
Oh, okay. It does feel like they kind of draw from each other. Or at least they don't seem to spike upsides at the same time. But, it is Cleveland, and Cleveland, we all know Cleveland. So certainly some ways that both guys can get there. Any Drew for you at all, or Lonzo, any of these other guys besides the Ingram?
Very minimal amount of Lonzo, very minimal amount of Drew Holiday.
Okay.
Nothing to write home about, that's for sure.
Jetty pointing out, how many times can Chris Spags say fair enough in one show? Well, we have 10 games, so probably 700. That's usually one of my transition phrases, but now, damn it. We said we're talking about this in the SuperDraft show. Jetty, gotta get it right. All right. Talk New Orleans side. We talked about Tristan Thompson. Anybody for Cleveland also popping up for you, or you maybe buying in on the recent Kevin Porter boosting opportunity, or Kevin Love also still in the mix? And certainly Larry Nance. This kind of game does seem like a Nance game, and he's not going to be too owned despite his run taking a pretty big jump up last game without Drummond.
Yeah, Nance, Love, and Tristan Thompson all popping up for me. I'm getting a lot of Larry Nance. I'm getting a bit less so of Kevin Love, but still slightly more than the field. And then I'm like 3x the field on Tristan Thompson. Got a lot of these guys.
Apparently, I say makes sense a lot too. I feel like you guys are just taking positive affirmations. These are just nice things to say to somebody, to be like, yeah, you're doing well. I feel like that's...
No one's even pointed out the one that I've got in the chamber either.
Now we just tease it for SuperDraft. But yeah, so far we have fair enough, makes sense. Got my ums and my likes. I got a lot to talk about. And Josh is wildly, of course. If you have some for Josh too, feel free to chip him in. So it's not
just do it to Chris.
Just do it for both of us equally. Also, I have a hole in my shirt. The shirt's very old, so that's probably why.
That's probably so comfortable though.
Yeah, well, get a little more breathability for the armpits. It's what we all want.
Absolutely. Sure. I'm surprised they don't just make shirts without armpits. We just got an ownership update 19 seconds ago.
Ooh, hot off the presses. So if you want to get it for yourself, use that promo code live before lock to get half off your first week on any of our weekly packages at awesemo.com/join. And Rondae Hollis-Jefferson still very chalky. DeAndre Ayton still very chalky. Pascal Siakam now up amongst the elites. If you're just taking a quick gander at the ownership for FanDuel, does this run change anything for you in any sort of appreciable way?
I don't even know what it was before.
Fair enough. Let me see. I don't think anything changed too much on DraftKings. Looks like Giannis took a big jump up on DraftKings. That's the one thing, it seems.
I am about to run what I hope can be my final crunch.
Hopefully. It is one of our shows, and we have not had the completely ridiculous chaos lately, so we might be overdue.
I mean, we got the chaos today. It just happened early.
It has to happen during the show to count, I think.
Oh, yeah. I don't want it to happen. Not much I can tell you.
One dude I feel like it's worth hitting on, the deeper dive guys talked about it earlier as well, but Bruno Fernando was somebody I probably would have had a little bit of. I thought he looked pretty good in that last start that he had. But he's not starting today. We still have some vestigial ownership going to him. It looks like on DraftKings about 13%. I would probably want to pivot away from that one.
I wouldn't have a single share.
Yeah, nor would I. But I think certainly less than 13%, even if you want to take your stabs. But him starting, he honestly might not see very many minutes. Might not see more than 10 minutes in the game with him not starting. Probably a boost for John Collins, though. Another guy who I feel like we just never really talk about. Curious, I guess, while we're talking Hawks, curious your thoughts on Trae Young here. Game against Brooklyn should be a pretty competitive one. Trae in Atlanta, always a thing where I feel like a little more reliable in terms of not getting blown off the court. And it's a little bit of a pace down against the Nets, but they still play fast enough where I don't think it hurts too much.
Better than getting blown on the court, right? Anyway, 9,700 for Trae on FanDuel. We're projecting him at like 18 and change or something. I've got 24 right now. The problem for me really is that there's a $2,400 drop off from Trae Young to Spencer Dinwiddie, and I'm just getting more Dinwiddie, and I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, for me with Dinwiddie, I just don't like playing him as much because it does seem like he's really deferred to LeVert, and his assist rate and his usage rate have kind of dropped down enough. And I think if you're playing a lot of LeVert, I mean, it certainly makes sense to have some Dinwiddie. But I just would rather have LeVert on FanDuel where the prices are so close for sure.
He just plays so many minutes. 33 and 34 in his last two. He went for 37 at Philly a week ago.
About a week ago.
20 shot attempts 2 games ago, which I think is really appealing to see. Only went for 34.5 fantasy points, but that could shake out just a little bit differently. Only one rebound that game. He's normally like a 5 or 6 guy, so that could be more like a 40-point game. If I get 40 out of Spencer Dinwiddie, I'll be cool with it.
Sure. No, that seems fair at that price point.
I'll want 50.
Yeah, 40 on DraftKings, I feel like you wouldn't feel that great about from Dinwiddie, but still, still in range for sure to be a viable play. Let's go through some of the other games where I guess there's either a hole from somebody missing, because I'm curious your thoughts on some of these guys. DeAnthony Melton, he was a guy who I think projected a little bit more aggressively in terms of ownership earlier in the day. A good per minute guy. We've talked about him before. He's had big days when we've talked about him before. He's starting now. I feel like his rates take enough, or he was starting last game. We don't know for sure if he'll start today. Different matchups, so maybe there's some ways that they go to Josh Jackson or somebody like that. But are you getting Melton at all here? Is he somebody who seems worthwhile to you? And his DraftKings ownership is at 15%. So I'm kind of wondering if you would be with that or no.
I have 2.7% on FanDuel right now. He's 4,700. I'm getting to more Markelle Fultz, actually, which I did not know as of right now, but 6% ownership.
Fultz, that's an interesting one. I'm glad you're getting a Magic player. That's certainly a positive.
I'm not. I hate getting Magic players. I never get those idiots right.
I'll see. I'm definitely more positive because I seem to usually get the good Aaron Gordon days and the good Vooch days right. So I feel like those guys, Fournier hit very much hit and miss there. But a game like this one, I do feel like is kind of a Fournier game. He does play a little better in those pacey type games. Fultz, I feel like I just don't really think about that much whenever Augustine's in the lineup just because of how that's gone historically. But I think Fultz's price makes sense on FanDuel now I'm seeing it.
I do have 100% RHJ right now. So if anybody's looking for a fade, you found it.
That's a lot of RHJ, but I do feel like, I don't think the Rondo analogy from yesterday is perfect. And certainly Rondo, that first half, I'm sure gave people some consternation there, but RHJ playing against a Charlotte team who's terrible against centers, and RHJ is functionally going to be playing a good amount of center there. I think RHJ is, I would put him a little bit behind Rondo and how I felt about him yesterday, but I feel like RHJ, I want a ton of him on both sides today for sure.
I like him way more than I liked Rondo yesterday. And the fact that he's just a $3,700 power forward on FanDuel makes it a little bit easier to deal with.
Sure. No, that certainly would help out a little bit.
Alex in chat says, Alex as in like the boss man, I'm not coming off of RHJ unless you're calling him as your 100 yards in a TD play.
That's
fair.
Good callback from football season.
Stern but fair, boss.
Yeah, RHJ does look pretty strong, and really don't have any issue with him at all. Getting a question again, which I feel like is just going to come up a lot, so you might as well address it like we're doing a radio show and people are tuning in. You got to tell people the weather and the traffic all the time because people just tune in every 10 minutes. But people ask about Chris Boucher and RHJ on FanDuel. How would you handle playing Chris Boucher and RHJ? And I guess would you not play them in the same lineup on FanDuel?
I would not play them in the same lineup on FanDuel.
Okay.
And right now, I essentially don't have Chris Boucher, so it's also easy.
I don't love playing them together on DraftKings. A Boucher is almost minimum price, and I feel like I'm going to have a little bit of Boucher and RHJ together just because of the massive savings that both get and the fact that I do think there could be some good run for Boucher coming when he does get it, but certainly not a priority play for me, and I would err more on the side of not playing them together if they were occurring. But
like if you're playing 150 lineups, if you end up with like 3 or 4 lineups with them together, like I don't ever care in that scenario. But if I were building one lineup and one lineup only, like on FanDuel, the chances of me having Boucher and RHJ in the same lineup are basically 0.
That seems fair. There we go. See, I changed it up. Not fair enough. I said that seems fair. De'Aaron Fox now a game time decision. So
yeah, I have him today, and I'm not stoked about it.
No, it's the same like core / abdominal stuff he keeps having issues with. So I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't love it on FanDuel, but you're doing it. So if Josh is backing it with his pocketbook, so
yeah, because that goes so well all the time. When I take stands on guys with potential injuries, those dudes are sure as shit sitting out.
I wasn't going to be the one to point it out, but it has historically been a Josh issue of some note that he's had some bad draws. But the thing is, you're due for positive regression on your injury draws, I would think.
One would hope. No, but then I'll go ahead and have, not that this was like an injury thing, but I had 3% Andrew Wiggins yesterday on FanDuel, which was not at all what he was owned. Turned out it didn't even matter. Still sucked.
No, that
still sucked for me.
Yeah, Wiggins. I mean, that he certainly would have made that game, one would think, a little more competitive, but I was not in on Wiggins. So I was glad that news broke that way, though. Did not expect Anthony Davis to put up 39 fantasy points. Could have done a little more, maybe.
I had him in literally every lineup on both sites.
I was right there with you. I liked Rondo, and Rondo got there, but yeah, AD, I figured, yeah, he's gonna get 50. Like, there's no way he doesn't get 50, and on that slate, that would have been perfect. But yeah, not so much. Not so much.
I don't
Got
know
some questions
what
about
to
the
do with
Suns.
Brandon Ingram right now. It's just driving me insane.
He's so good. I mean, I know you don't love him that much because he's almost like too consistent per minute, or I feel like you've said that before, at least. So I might be reading a little too much into it. But I feel like the price works. So why not? Why not Brandon Ingram?
Oh, like I have, it's not that I'm like mad about it. I'm happy to have him. I don't feel like I need 45% Brandon Ingram, but every time I make a slight tweak to him, then he goes to like 20%, and that's not really what I'm looking for either. 45 just, it's a lot.
45 is a lot. I find it hard to believe he would kill you, but yeah, in terms of spiking the tournament upside, that could be a bit of a thorny issue, and still a low paced game against Cleveland as well. So that is something that maybe not the most perfect situation overall. Let's see. We haven't talked as much about Phoenix, and it does seem. Let me just double check this to make sure I'm not speaking out of turn. I guess he's come down enough, but Devin Booker starting to trend downwards in terms of ownership on DraftKings. Not so much the case for DeAndre Ayton, who's still going to be one of the top owned plays, but what are you doing with Devin Booker today? Is he somebody who you're getting less of now because of all the other ways you're going, or not so much?
No, not so much. As of right now, Devin Booker is my most exposed shooting guard on FanDuel, and I have twice the field. So chances are he'll end up with the same amount of ownership that I have.
That does seem fair. And Ayton, I think we talked about him briefly, but where'd you land with him?
Ayton right now, I'm just holding hands with the field. My biggest stand at center is Tristan Thompson.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. And I get it on FanDuel at his price. That's certainly putting up 38 fantasy points against Philadelphia with Horford playing most of the minutes there. I think very much an encouraging sign for him moving forward, as if all the games he had where he just basically played Andre Drummond off the court weren't reassuring enough. Certainly been looking good recently since in this stint here without Drummond. Let's see. Another game which we haven't talked about too much, but I am getting one of these guys a good amount because of Danilo Gallinari being out. The Thunder here going into Milwaukee. I already thought Schroeder was a decent play just because he's going to get some second unit run, and they're going to probably need to put up some buckets in that second unit just to keep up in a meaningful way. And Schroeder now going to see even more court time. I think Shea and Chris Paul get a little bit of a jump, but not enough where I would necessarily feel like they need to be in lineups more than not. But getting a lot of Schroeder. Are you getting any Thunder guys because of Danilo being out?
Not really. And so I've got like 10% Paul, like 10% SGA, very little Schroeder. 5,300 on FanDuel. I don't know what his price is on DraftKings. Let me look.
He's 56.
Okay. So I even like him better on FanDuel, I guess. The problem is just simply the position. Shooting guard is like wildly deep today. I'm not getting a lot of Bradley Beal, but Bradley Beal, Drew Holiday, Jimmy Butler, Booker, Mitchell, LeVert, SGA. Devontae Graham's price on FanDuel is simply too cheap. I like Kevin Huerter at 4,700 as a value option. We have Norm Powell now, so I don't feel as bad not getting Schroeder. I do have a little bit, but not nearly as much. I also have him well under projected to Alex, which is making me nervous.
No, I think that seems about right. Yeah, Schroeder, I do like quite a bit. I think some of those other guys, though, certainly in the mix for sure. Let me just see. Question from DA24. I guess we could start talking about him because we did talk about Ayton. Can you rank Ayton, Siakam, and Gobert on DK? For me, that would now be Siakam, Ayton, Gobert, just based on the ownership and the way I have these guys projected. But how would you rank those three guys on DK?
Ayton, Siakam, and Gobert.
Yep, you got it.
It would be Ayton by like a mile, and then probably Gobert because of ownership, and then Siakam.
Okay, fair enough. Siakam, I do. Well, his ownership's come up enough, I guess, where he's certainly not going to be a sneaky play by any stretch. But I do think Siakam and Lowry do get big boosts. It looks like Siakam's actually going to be much higher owned now than Lowry. Yeah, I like Lowry quite a bit. I feel like if you wanted to get the lower owned option, though, it would be Lowry on DraftKings, it looks like. Also, this weird free contest on DraftKings, which I don't know what it is and what it's for, but I have to put lineups in for that.
I don't know what it is. I'm not in it that much. I know.
It's weird. It's like for DK money, and I keep getting more entries every day. I don't know why that's happened, but I'll certainly play it.
Get them crowns, my dude.
For true. Dominic Cubano. I was going to say Dominic Ubano, but no, Dominic Cubano, I presume, representing both those countries. He's asking Nance and Tristan in the same lineup. Do you have any issue with that?
I do not, but I did set a max 2 of 3 on those two idiots and Love.
I do like that you call them those two idiots. That does bring me a modicum of joy.
That's why I said it.
I'm all about giving me modicums of joy whenever we can. Doesn't happen nearly enough, I'm sure. Let's see. For fit, no, I don't want to do either words yet. Anybody on the slate who you're getting a lot of who we haven't touched on yet? Because we haven't talked about Denver and the Clippers. I feel like that game is certainly one on paper that doesn't look the most one that like a type of game you'd appreciate very much, or like the general you would appreciate very much. I feel like we've covered most of everything else. We haven't talked about Detroit's side at all. So maybe you're getting something there, but anybody we haven't hit on who you're getting more of that you feel like we should elaborate upon?
I've got a lot of Mikal Bridges on FanDuel, but that's just because small forward's weird. I like Jokic today on FanDuel if he's going to be 5% owned. I mean, I've mentioned that I have a lot of Tristan Thompson before. He's still only 13% owned on FanDuel. I think that's too low of a number.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that. He's been like one of the more obvious value plays according to Awesemo's projections all day. And I know because I had him in the four corners, my short form video earlier today, and it was like Tristan looked at a really good price on FanDuel. I know that, people don't like, people always talk about the opportunity cost on FanDuel when you roster a center who maybe doesn't have the biggest upside. But like, if you're not going to Tristan Thompson at center, I mean, where are you going? I guess just Ayton. And I don't think Ayton's price is quite as appealing on FanDuel as it is on DraftKings, is it?
I have 9% Ayton. He's 9K on FanDuel.
Yeah.
I'm getting some Derek
on
Favors.
Is certainly more of a priority.
I should not want Derek Favors here, should I? 8 times 5 is 40. Yeah, no, we need to walk that back. Goodbye, Derek Favors.
Artrell59 asking your favorite power forward besides RHJ for a FanDuel GPP.
That is a good question. Guy that I have the most is Larry Nance. So Larry Nance.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this type of game, whenever there's a little more pace to go around, that's certainly when Larry Nance has been able to spike his upside in a meaningful way. And I think Nance, he feels a little sneaky on the slate where people just don't look his way unless he's starting. And he's not starting, but he's going to get run. Probably a lot of it.
I said Nance. I'm Al Pacino.
I don't know this reference, but I'm going to laugh.
Tropic Thunder. I think I've done this before.
Oh, I do. Okay. I've watched Tropic Thunder, but man, I don't retain quotes from the movies that well, unless they are the big one. Dadler, we just answered that question, man. Just answered the avoid Nance and Tristan in the same lineup. Josh, what was your answer from 1 minute ago?
I'll probably change my mind now just to make it really awful. But no, I just said a max 2 of 3 from Nance, Thompson, and Love.
Yeah, that and when there's a question where the same guys on both sides of the 2v2 or 3v3, those are my two pet peeves. I know people are
Trey Young and Eric Bledsoe, or De'Aaron Fox and Eric Bledsoe.
And it's the worst because I don't see it because I'm just going through it and I don't see it till the end, and I'm like, God damn it, I want to drop some epithets on people.
Yes, yes,
but I don't. So I'm strong. Also trivia questions going on right now in the chat, so keep your eyes peeled here for Brett. One just went up right now, or I guess shortly after you hear this probably, but go ahead and pay attention in there. $600 in SuperDraft tickets being given away right now in our YouTube chat, so answer the trivia questions. Will be going through the SuperDraft show until about 7:15 p.m. Eastern time today for the questions and the trivia here in the YouTube chat. So keep paying attention there. Keep answering your questions, and Brett will give you some more chances to win the $600 in tickets for the jump shot up top. And actually, let's see how that's filling. Oh man, still wait. Did that? I feel like that didn't update at all. But maybe.
I mean, it'll get shot out of a cannon in that first 10 minutes that after lock. But
Yeah, I thought maybe it was that I had to refresh the page, but no, still 2,500 entries left in that super draft contest. And whether you're getting free tickets or not, it's a good idea to take advantage of a lot of the overlay and the savings on rake that have been going on over there because they are a newer site, tougher to fill some of these tournaments, especially as a newer site that people are still figuring out. So go to superdraft.io and use that promo code Awesemo10. Get $10 free with no deposit at all, $20 with under $100, and $30 with over 100. Instant release deposit bonuses for all of those. So you're not waiting around. It's no slow drip. Get it immediately. So check them out right now at superdraft.io with that promo code Awesemo10, Awesemo10. Hoodmaster asking a question, which I guess we haven't talked about him, but Mike Conley for DraftKings. I don't know if he's the same equation on FanDuel, but I'm on Conley today. I think he's fine. I don't know if he has gigantic upside, but playing Washington, I find it hard to believe he's going to murder my lineups today. But do you have any thoughts on Conley, I guess, on FanDuel and then also DK at where his price is pretty cheap?
yeah, so he is not in play for me on FanDuel. On DraftKings, however, I know that I would have more than whatever we have him projected for. And that dude has been murdering me this entire season. So I would just assume that I would get that wrong.
Yeah, no, that's probably fair. Conley, I mean, in the most recent games, he's been over 28 fantasy points. I think 5 out of his last 6, and he had the one bad game the other day where he was kind of chalky that he just had foul trouble and just didn't get going. And then he was almost benched and then unbenched and whatever the case may be. But I would still say that Conley is very much a viable play today, and one too that I would definitely think it's worth having some exposure on it. It's hard to imagine him not getting something going against Washington. But, it's Mike Conley. Won't be shocked if he does bomb out. Let's see. Now we got so many questions in here now. Still not trying to do either ors. Chris is getting 80% Jared Allen on DK, and he's 9% owned. Is he missing something? I was getting Allen before. I'm getting a little bit less now, but I think it's just a matchup and a reasonable price. But do you see any reason why somebody would have 80% Jared Allen? I think more than double the field would be more than enough Jared Allen if you want to get crazy there.
That seems like a lot of Jared Allen.
It's a lot of Jared Allen, especially given that DeAndre Jordan's right there.
Yeah, I have 2% on FanDuel right now. I don't know what happened in this most recent crunch, but now I don't get Brandon Ingram, so this is just wacky.
Things really moving all over for you. So wait, no Ingram, then what'd you get more of?
I don't know. I'm just going to run a different crunch. I don't like it.
Okay. Look, sometimes that's what you got to do in this crazy game we call DFS.
Yes, we do.
Let's see. Questions here. Darius Garland on DK over Conley. The most popular man in the Slack, Rohit Matani, is asking right now. I will answer a question because I know you're a beloved guy, Rohit. I would not go Darius Garland over Conley. He's an okay GPP pivot for some lineups, but Garland's not a dude you can really trust. He's fine for tournaments, but
no, your best bet is to just not play Darius Garland.
I got one lineup with Darius Garland, but that's more because I didn't have the money to get to Mike Conley.
I'd find the money.
Fair. That's fair. Let's see. For FanDuel cash, would you go Morant and Devontae Graham or Bledsoe and Schroeder? For me, that'd be Bledsoe and Schroeder.
Oh, it's FanDuel cash?
Yep.
Bledsoe, Schroeder, Morant. Who's the fourth person? Who goes with Morant?
It was, now I lost it. Oh, Morant and Graham and Bledsoe and Schroeder.
I would rather have Morant and Graham, but that is pretty close.
Okay. Let's see here.
I don't think that most of those guys, I wouldn't be looking to play Schroeder or Graham in that scenario. I would probably just go to Norm Powell and save some money.
Okay, fair enough. Let's see here. Damn it, I said fair enough, and I saw the guys chat from before. Thoughts on Ja Morant? I guess you just answered that, but thoughts on him for a FanDuel GPP?
He's obviously playable. I have 9%. We've got him projected for 18. I don't have a wildly interesting take. He's just one of 15 point guards that look kind of good, but he's not one of my priorities. Shit, what was the question? I wanted to try to answer the trivia question first.
They're flying out fast and furiously. Again, trivia questions going in the YouTube chat, so pay attention in there. Our guy Brett's giving away $600 in tickets to SuperDraft tonight. And it's not just one person who wins. A lot of people winning. So if you're correct, just get that answer in there. Brock asking CP3 or SGA, the question that I didn't want to answer earlier because we were definitely not doing either or then. But would you go Chris Paul or SGA on DraftKings today?
Let me take a look. I don't know how much either of these guys are.
Yeah, I don't love either of them, honestly.
I can't even find Chris Paul's name. Apparently not Chris Paul. So,
Christopher Paul, Rich Paul.
I would go neither. Apparently,
Cliff Paul.
Yeah, I'll go Cliff Paul. Luka Doncic available to play.
I feel like we've gotten that alert like 5 times. I didn't think he was in doubt to play. Then they'd start getting me worried.
I mean, he was like kind of the entire day. People acting like him turning 21 is like this huge deal. Like that dude hasn't been getting tanked in Europe for years.
Yeah, playing with older European dudes who are also problem alcoholics.
I'm quite confident that Luka just eats cigarettes on the side. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that take very much. I mean, even you could tell, like, even when he was kind of coming to the league, he's getting a little bit less soft now, but he's got like, he's drinking. He's having a good time.
He was quite clearly not treating his body right when he played in Europe.
No, not even a little. Not even a little.
Not so much. Matthew Samples, the hero of the strategy show this morning. Could you fade Giannis in a FanDuel single entry? I probably wouldn't. I mean, you can. Like that's not craziness. You could just as easily go to like Siakam, Ingram, or like Boyan and Siakam or something. So I don't think that it's crazy. I just wouldn't expect that I would do that.
Let's see. Rounder Boy Nate saying Garland will go ham tonight in the premium Slack. People are really buying it on Garland. I just like, I don't know. He's fine. Like, I don't mind getting to Garland. I mind him less than Josh does, but like, what's he done that's going to give you the inkling that he's going to suddenly go nuts here? Like, if he goes nuts, he's giving you like 35 fantasy points, which is like nuts by Darius Garland standards, which is not enough, I think, on this slate in particular. Somebody was asking before, I think it might have been DA24, but I lost the question. I think it was before the ownership update. But do you feel like Giannis is under-owned or appropriately owned on DK? Because to me, I'm going to have less Giannis in the field for sure. I still like him. Obviously, he's about as safe a play as you can find. But I do think there's so many guys in the 7 to 8K range that I like quite a bit. And the Raptors guys, I think, are one issue for me. I don't know that I'll get as much as the field of Giannis tonight, but do you feel 22% is right or low, or how do you feel with that about DraftKings ownership?
Seems a tad high to me.
Okay.
I would be. What is his ownership at?
22.
I would expect to be significantly under that on DraftKings. I think that Trae Young would be the guy that I'd be paying up to the most on DraftKings.
Interesting. Yeah, I like Trae. Man, I didn't get enough Trae today, really, either. But Trae looks very strong today. There's too many. I mean, it's a 10-game slate, so obviously that does happen. There's like too many good guys today. Like too many guys I really do like quite a bit that I'm having a hard time getting to, which doesn't fill me with joy. But what are you gonna do? Let's see. With such low Luka ownership, do you think he's the best contrarian play solely for ceiling capability? Yeah, he'd be my top projected guy under 10% on DraftKings. So I would agree with that. And again, we talked about it earlier. People are not going to play much from Dallas and Miami.
No, they are not.
Nance or Allen at power forward on FanDuel? Who would you have?
Nance.
Do you have any Ingles on FanDuel?
I don't think so.
Would you guys play a few shares of Bruce Brown on both sites? Our boy Scoops Coat is asking. I would not want to play Bruce Brown today.
I don't have him.
Yeah.
And he's somebody that I usually get a lot of, but I don't currently have him. How much time we got? 6:56. 3 minutes to go. Crunch is at 7:80. So yeah, I should be good.
Do you assume that Cody Zeller's starting? I don't know if we got that news, or if
I'm just treating the Hornets centers like I don't want any of them. So I just didn't pay attention to it. I don't want to guess, and I'd rather just not have any of them. If one of the Hornets centers wants to beat me today, kudos.
Why wouldn't they want to beat you? Everybody.
That's fair.
I mean, we're all lining up with soap filled socks filled with soap. I'm just thinking of a Full Metal Jacket. Just
never saw it.
Yeah. Okay. You son of a bitch. Raptors officially starting Lowry, Powell, Anunoby, Siakam, and Hollis Jefferson, which is what we expected and I think knew, but it's official. For a FanDuel GPP, would you go Bojan Bogdanovic or OG Anunoby?
Boyan.
Johnny Utah asking Hunter, Prince, or Joe Harris for the last spot in DK Cash. Oof. None.
I haven't looked at anything from a DK Cash perspective, so I'm not really going to be much help there.
Honestly, oh man, probably would go Prince there, but like those guys aren't like they're not owned enough for me to feel the most confident in Cash. But I do think Prince is probably the best floor. But it's not three guys I love. Not trying to be mean to your lineup by any stretch, Johnny Utah, and great name by the way. So really not trying to be mean to your lineup. Let's see. Hen Dog asking Levert, Nas, or Shea and Bielitsa for a FanDuel GPP.
I'm going to have to put that one to bed. I'm trying to get my lineups in. Sorry.
Fair enough. Yeah, you guys got seconds left to get your lineups in, so do it right now.
No, don't say seconds, man. We got a full minute. Seconds is scary.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, that's fair. By the time you guys hear this, we don't have much time left, but here are 2 Super Chat questions that I missed while we were doing all this stuff. Jack Perry asking, any love for Len on DK with the recent minutes uptick? Not on this slate for me, no.
No.
Yeah. Could you fade Giannis? You already answered that one. So there you go. Matthew Samples already got his. So we got Super Chats.
1 paste. 2 pastes. 3 pastes. How much time?
Probably like 30 seconds.
4 pastes.
1 paste. Ha, ha, ha.
Helpful. Super helpful.
That was a pretty good count from Sesame Street impression, if we're being honest.
I mean, how do you do it bad? That would be my question.
1 paste. The laugh is really where you define it. Elusive Smoke asking a question which I think you can answer while pasting. He says, this one is for Josh. Would you rather be beaten with locks and socks or play daddy likes?
Play daddy likes. Got my lineups in with 4 seconds to spare. Not that I didn't have like dummies in, so I wasn't stressing it, but that's about as good as it's going to get for me right now.
Rusty Jones saying you probably never watched Sesame Street. Yeah, were you too cool for the street, Josh?
I don't remember.
You don't remember watching? How do you not remember watching Sesame Street?
Because I don't have memories of being 3 years old.
You remember Tropic Thunder? I feel like I remember stuff like that.
Because I watched Tropic Thunder like 6 weeks ago. I didn't watch Sesame Street on a whim.
Oh, fine, whatever.
I mean, what are we debating about Sesame Street? Like, obviously, I know who the Count is. I know it more because of a Dave Chappelle stand-up bit.
Sesame Street's a good show. It's actually one of the few shows that was designed to be smart and help kids be less stupid. So,
and they had the nerve to put a pimp on there. Now, they didn't come out and say he was a pimp. Biombo starting.
Oh man. Well, that doesn't matter. Who cares? Yes. I wonder if Zeller's just out of the rotation then.
Seems it.
That's so random. That's Charlotte team. Like James Borrego, I know you have a lot of opinions about these things, and I'm pulling up ownership so we could do a quick round of the ownership game. But James Borrego, are we thinking he's a good coach?
I mean, how could you tell? The Hornets are terrible, and they were expected to be terrible. What was James Borrego going to be able to do? I could coach the Hornets to be bad.
But why wouldn't you, I guess if you have these guards who are good and who can assist well and can hit some shots in space and you
don't have those things. You don't have those things. That's the problem. Those guys suck. That's why they suck.
But Graham and Rozier and Monk would suck less if they were running a lot. Like they would at least produce more, whether they'd still get blown off the court, but they would at least produce more and you get more out of Bridges and more out of Washington and those guys.
They are 3 guys that aren't very good at basketball. That is why the Hornets aren't very good at basketball.
This is also, by the way, the worst ownership game ever. So stay tuned. Still got trivia questions going from Brett in the chat. So watch there. We'll talk super draft in a moment. And I'll just burn. Actually, you want to guess who the top owned guy is from the early game?
I don't even know who's in the early game.
It's the Magic and the Timberwolves.
I don't even know who was owned on DraftKings in that game.
Jimmy Ennis, number 1 at 8%.
Huh.
Yeah.
8?
Yep.
Yeah, let's put that game to bed right now.
He was gonna be 21% in the first run we had this morning, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of James Ennis, but he was the only cheap guy. So I feel like those are people who made their lineups in advance who were like, I'm done now. I can walk away from this one. And that was not a great move. I'll just burn through the rest. Aaron Gordon at 7.3%. I like that. Aaron Gordon's got big upside. I don't care if his price is rising. Evan Fournier, 6%. D'Angelo Russell, 6%. Kola Vucevic, 5%. These guys are all a little sneaky to me. Having one of them, I think, in a tournament winning lineup tonight would not be a shock. Malik Beasley, the Bees, my boy, 5%. Markelle Fultz, 3.3. Terrence Ross, 2%. James Johnson, 1.1. Naz Reid, also 1.1. Juancho, 1.1 rounded up. Jarrett Culver, 0.97. Josh Okogie, 0.68. Keelan Martin, 0.64. Mo Bamba, 0.5. 0.4 for DJ Augustine. Jordan McLaughlin, 0.3. Michael Carter-Williams, 0.01 or 0.1 rather. Jake Layman, 0.1. Weston Wondu, 0.02. Kem Birch, 0.01. I think all those guys are available, so nobody played themselves.
There you go.
All right.
Played yourself by playing anybody in that game.
That's unfair. This game's going to have like 100. It's going to be like 125, 120, and then you'll rue the day on this 10-game slate. You didn't consider it.
Hope that I don't.
Why am I?
Actually, let's see.
Well,
how much of that game do I have? What is it? Orlando and Minnesota? Oh, I have the
Correct.
time here. I could look at that even easier. I have 25% Vooch, 15% Fultz, and scattered amounts of Gordon, Fournier, Russell, Beasley, and Naz Reid.
All right. That's a fair. I like the guys you have scattered around there. Probably not getting a Naz today, but I do like.
He's a $4,500 power forward on FanDuel.
Got it. So yeah, and if he were a center, I'd feel like that's an odd play, but I guess that makes sense. Naz the dude. When he was that one day, he was 3K. I didn't get to play enough of him, and then the day that I did play him was the day that James Johnson started, which he was still fine, but really feel like I missed my moment with Naz Reid. All right. Got SuperDraft here open now. Projections were updated 1 minute ago, so these are hot off the presses. And we'll see here. We'll compare Josh's top guys along with SuperDraft's, Awesemo's top guys on SuperDraft today. And also, I believe SuperDraft projections are free once more. So you got the best possible deal here. I'll drop the link in chat right now. So that's, you bet you thought I wouldn't, but here I am doing it because that's how great I am. Josh acts. Oh, by the way, so here's something in the chat from C. Tiddler. Josh acts like Spags is annoying little brother. I would say Josh acts more like a man doing lineups as I fill the air. I guess. But you can correct him if you want, Josh. Tell him we're best buds.
You're older than me, right? By like 2 months?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm an October baby.
Okay, 4 months. February, 3 weeks ago. Yeah. So I would have to be the little brother in this scenario.
Yeah. So how do you feel about that? But I think I do give more of a youthful air with my cool demeanor and such.
Oh yeah, I'm dying on the inside. I'm like 900 years old.
That's what being married does, though. I feel like when you're single, you got to be a little more viable still, and you got to be like out there. When you're married, you just like kind of start to, I wouldn't say rot away. I rot away in love.
Yeah. I've still, I just don't have to care about myself anymore. It's great.
Even with me, like I've talked about it, but I started dating somebody. We're going to get Korean barbecue after this, so I'm stoked about that. But like I feel like even that, I'm like I've been slowly like paying a little bit less attention to my diet, and that's the worst thing you can do. You gotta stay viable, stay fresh. All right, number one super draft play for Awesemo. Christian Wood, a 1.6x multiplier. Are you with the boss man on Christian Wood being the top play on ye old super draft?
So he's fourth for me overall, but if I sort by odds of hitting a target score, he's first.
Interesting.
So
okay.
Yes, I don't have a problem with Christian Wood there. Do you have his eligibility in front of you by any chance? Do you have power forward?
I'm pulling it up right now so we can build our lineup as we go. I believe he's a center. Yeah, he's a center.
Just center?
Correct.
Okay.
Should we put him in as a placeholder then at center?
You certainly should.
All right, let's put him in. Christian Wood, first man into our super draft lineup. And once again, we're going to build you guys a lineup you can use. If the tournament does overlay, I guess this tournament, any lineup would cash if the tournament does overlay. So that's, for the most part, it's going to be a positive for you. But either way, this one, we feel confident, or we'll feel confident that you'll cash with this one. So we're putting all of our brain power, and you can see me. I'm working my temples to make sure my brain's functioning right. All right. Number two for the boss man. Karis LeVert, a 1.55x multiplier. You know I'm in on that. I want Karis LeVert in our lineup right freaking now.
Karis LeVert is fifth in points, but second in my target score metric. So my 1-2 match Alex's. I'm just going to sort by target score now.
All right, so now we're getting on the same page.
We weren't on like the different page. These guys were like 4th and 5th.
You guys were arguing in a blood feud, and now you're back on track. Here's a question from Scoops Cut, which I'll answer while we'll go back to SuperDraft in one moment. Probably wouldn't play Tyus and Melton together, right? Any concerns playing either with Ja? I don't have any groups for Memphis, and I definitely was not getting any Tyus anyway. So
I don't. Did I miss something about the Grizzlies?
Melton was starting last game, and then.
Well, yeah, I understand why we would want to play Melton. I don't have a single clue why we would be playing Tyus in anything.
Yep, no, that's fair. Also, to clarify one thing, which I guess I misspoke from our guy Tom, one of our founders here. I did not mean to say not every lineup cashes when it overlays, which means what you see yourself making a profit right away, and then you still have to finish in a cash line. Was what I meant to say. But when you see your money go up relative to your entry when the tournament starts and nobody's played yet, that's the one way you'll know if there's overlay in a tournament. If you don't want to do the math for yourself. And also to note right now, 1,710 entries out of 3,800 in the jump shot. Again, 10K up top in there, so get in there. Pay attention to the chat as well. Brett's still doing some trivia questions and giving away $600 in SuperDraft tickets, so check that out right now. All right, next play here on SuperDraft for the boss man, Pascal Siakam, 1.35x multiplier on there. Looks like a strong play, gets a boost from No Van Vliet as well as Noah Ibaka. I'm comfortable putting him in if you are.
He is 7th for me, but that seems like it'd be fine.
All right, we'll put him in. Maybe he comes out. We'll pivot back on that one. But right now, Pascal Siakam makes the lineup alongside Karis LeVert and Christian Wood. Giannis Antetokounmpo making it in here at a 1x multiplier. I would be okay moving away from that one, but what do you think?
I have him a spot ahead of Siakam.
All right, so we'll put him in. We'll put him in. I guess this is one thing where I'm still not sure, and maybe you have a read on it, but are you comfortable playing the 1x multiplier guys when you have, even guys who are just a little bit lower getting 1.5x or 1.1x?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, all right, Giannis makes it in there. Right now, the lineup looks like LeVert, Siakam, Antetokounmpo. I don't know why I just didn't say Giannis, but showing off I could pronounce names, and Christian Wood. Also, what was the verbal crutch that you didn't drop on me before?
Do you really want to know?
Yeah, sure. Just do it.
Right now?
Yeah. I feel like that adds a sense of urgency. I know why I do that one. But
if you get like really into a read and you start like freestyling a bit, right now just is like the only thing that comes out. I'll sit back and just be like 1, 2, 3, 4.
I swear, by the time we are done with this show, I will be a fully refined broadcaster with none of these verbal crutches. I'm sure just the usual lisping and talking too fast kind of stuff. But
I feel like if I search for right now on YouTube, that you saying it so much in the video will make that video rank for us.
What if it were like the song Right Now and we could beat that out?
I think that you would beat it.
I know I do that. I definitely, now that you say it, that was one that would have never occurred to me, especially with ad reads, because I know with that, that's just all.
That's the one I hear the most.
Fair enough. Damn it. That's what I'm hearing now. This is why the SuperDraft show gets a little looser. We just torment me.
That one landed perfectly. You
acknowledged
one of your vocal ticks with one of your vocal ticks. It's
here's one of my other vocal ticks. Kill me. It's one that I don't use on the show too often, but yeah, you are correct. You are correct, sir. That's what I'll start saying. I'm going to come up with synonyms for all of these and start mixing them in.
We talk a lot that everyone hears. You just repeat the shit out of yourself constantly.
It's tough, especially on some of these shows when I know you're doing crunches. I'm just filling the air, and a lot of things that come out just probably a steady stream of right now's, fair enoughs.
We all have it. I know that I repeat the hell out of myself. I know that Laffy and Adam both have a few that like are go-to phrases that just get repeated nonstop. Yeah.
I think too, as a person who's like listened to a lot of radio and stuff, I feel like dead air is always the thing that sticks out to me. So I try to not leave any dead air at all. But on these kind of streams, you probably can, and I don't have to talk. I don't have to say the thing, but God damn it. Right now, I'll keep saying it. So fair enough to that, my friends. Number 5 on the list is Zion Williamson. Are you climbing Mount Zion today at a 1.55x multiplier?
Yeah, he's 3rd for me.
Ooh, okay. I'm surprised by that a little bit, but Zion, I have no issue with Zion at all. He's not a guard. He's a forward. Duh. All right, Zion in right now. The lineup: Karis LeVert, Zion Williamson, Pascal Siakam, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and at center, Christian Wood. Getting some Wood here in our lineup right away as a top projected super draft play for the boss man and for Josh in terms of hitting their target scores. Spencer Dinwiddie here coming in behind Zion. Zion at guard, 1.5x multiplier. It looks like I don't have an issue with it, but I feel like I don't want to play him with LeVert necessarily.
Yeah, he's 5th for me, so I'm cool with it. I don't have much of a problem.
All right. He'll be the guy we put in, but he's the guy I'm probably looking at to swap off. 1.5x multiplier, fine, but I'd rather have the 1.55 LeVert, and I don't think I want them together necessarily. It's fine matchup to do it though. If you were going to do it, I feel like doing it against Atlanta is probably the time to do it.
Yep.
Okay. Tournament, by the way, 2,000 entries now out of 3,800. So we'll be on overlay alert here. I'm sure Tom will let me know if there is an overlay looking here in the last few minutes or looking like it's going to come out. But there you go. So keep in mind here too, overlay is not something you're not guaranteed to cash. Just want to clarify that point because I did say that a little too fast earlier. You have a positive expected value if you're of an average skill level, is how Tom wanted that to be said. So that's a much better way to put it from a guy who knows how to put these things perfectly. See, 2009 WPT saying, holy S, the dog actually moved. They do move. They just know that generally it's not plus EV for them to move during the shows.
Now, what they're going to do is go over and drink some water and then lick their crotches on camera.
That is a thing they do enjoy. That's their verbal crutch.
Yes.
They like loudly drinking water behind me and then going to town on the old vajayjays. Selfism saying you probably won't win shit. Translation. I guess I could have not cursed on that one then. That's actually not the case. If you're like a decent player, it's much easier to win with overlay because you'll still have people who aren't good and don't know what they're doing at all. So that's
anytime there are less entries, it's just better for you. There's no gimmick to that. It's just math.
Yeah, you're increasing your odds at a high rate of getting a good return on it, and you're not paying rake even if you do lose, which is going to be more valuable than yacht over time.
3,333 entries, I believe, for today. I'd have to look at it again, but I'm pretty sure that's the number. Anything less than that is literal negative rake. Anything more than 33 is going to be reduced rake.
Yep, that makes sense. And again, still 1,800 entries left to go there. So we are still very much in the safe zone of there potentially being some overlay. Yesterday, $3,000 in overlay almost in that tournament. So that's money that's just going right to you guys instead of going to the site. So that's the way they get customers in. It's an important part of the DFS industry. And the other sites, the other big sites out there don't need to offer that anymore. When they do offer overlay or decreased rake, like for the XFL last weekend, that is purely accidental. And then they try to correct that as best they can in the following week. So that's big difference between a new site and an established site. Donovan Mitchell coming up next at guard here at 1.45x. I feel like it's hard to argue with that one going against Washington, though right behind him is Rudy Gobert. I think I'd prefer to go Mitchell and Wood than go with Gobert, but how do you feel? Would you want Mitchell or Gobert more?
Mitchell, not close. Mitchell's 4th. So both Alex and I have the exact same top 7.
And that top 7 was Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Donovan Mitchell, Zion Williamson, Pascal Siakam, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Christian Wood. That is the lineup that seems like the top projected guys there. And I guess we can do a little swapperoo here for tournaments. And I think the first place we would look would be the Brooklyn guys. But once again, if you want to put in a lineup right now, it's got a pretty decent chance of taking advantage of the overlay or decreased rake on SuperDraft today. Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Donovan Mitchell. Those are your 3 guards. Zion Williamson, Pascal Siakam, Giannis Antetokounmpo at forward, center, Christian Wood. That is the lineup to use on there.
So who's the next guard for Alex?
The next guard up. Oh, actually, we have positions on here now. So, next guard up's Eric Bledsoe. I like that quite a bit.
Okay, so Bledsoe is not next for me, but next is Conley, and then Bledsoe is immediately after that, and they're all essentially tied for the same. So I think swapping Bledsoe to...
So Alex's next guys at guard are Bledsoe, Lowry, Drew, Chris Paul. So like Conley is not even... Okay. Conley is way down.
Drew is directly after Bledsoe for me.
I think I would just go Bledsoe because, like, he's going to get more with no Middleton, and I feel like at least he's getting a boost here. I mean, multipliers do kind of even the playing field a bit, but I feel like Bledsoe or Lowry would be the 2 that I would want to go to.
I would have to say Bledsoe then. It's not Lowry for me.
All right, fair enough.
So yeah, let's do Bledsoe.
All right, so if you wanted to make a tournament pivot there, then the lineup, I guess you could really look, if you want to put in a couple of lineups, you could swap out LeVert, go to Bledsoe. Then you could swap out Dinwiddie, go to Bledsoe. A lot of easy ways here to pivot with the stuff. And again, the super draft projections are free today. So go there imminently, go there immediately with great haste to click the link. Actually, I'll put the super draft projections in one more time so everybody can check them out. They are free today. But of course, if you want to get them every day, you have to get the old deal there.
Yeah. Right. 2,174 entries right now. They're like 1,700 short. Guys, start jamming in now. There is going to be at least reduced rake 11 minutes until lock. Trust me on this one. This is going to be the best place you could put your money today.
Yeah, it's just an easier pathway to success, and $10,000 to first place. That is, for a tournament of this size, you're not going to find many tournaments on the other sites that are going to give you $12 entry fees and $10,000 up top to first, as well as a $40,000 guaranteed prize pool. So smart to take advantage of it. Throw as much as you can here while you have the time, because that main slate's locked here with all that Orlando, Minnesota goodness that we discussed.
De'Aaron Fox will play.
Ooh, there you go. Hey, you made it out. There, finally, you did it. I'm proud of you. Take that bow.
Really hard to bow while you're already sitting.
Yeah, you just kind of look like you're trying to give yourself some sort of oral pleasure.
Real bad dab.
One of my former coworkers, this is a guy I still enjoy. They did the NASDAQ closing bell yesterday for Barstool because they got acquired by that casino company. Yeah. And Big Cat, whom some of you might be familiar with out there, is on Pardon My Take. He still does the Logan Paul, like the multi-dab thing, and did it at the NASDAQ. It's like, you are a silly man. It's just a silly thing to do. Probably the first multi-dab ever done at a NASDAQ bell ringing situation.
I'm not sure I've ever heard either of those two people you just mentioned speak.
You don't know Big Cat? They're like Big Cat and PFT comments are both very much guys who are in the mix with the media. They get really good interviews. They got like Joe Burrow and Ed Orgeron the day after the national championship game. They got Mahomes after the Super Bowl. They got like really good guests now. Surprising.
Never once.
Let's see. Anthony Marcus in the YouTube chat. Let us see how long Spags can go without saying that makes sense or fair enough. Over under 230 plus 500 on the under. I'm taking all bets. Well, now that you've said that, now I just won't say anything. I'll just sit here in silence. So that's what you get, Anthony Marcus. I like your cousin Neiman Marcus much better. Want to do some more count impressions?
I mean, it's better than that Neiman Marcus joke. Who else does Alex have up at the top? Let's see where else we differ, because obviously I have Mike Conley wildly overprojected like I do every other day.
Yeah, so after Gobert, we got Bledsoe, then Ayton, then Kyle Lowry, then Drew Holiday, Chris Paul, Devontae Graham, and John Collins right after that.
Okay.
How are you feeling about that group?
I mean, all of those seemed pretty reasonable to me. Actually, refresh.
Kind of wish I had some John Collins in regular lineups tonight, because
I prefer his brother Tom Collins. Oh,
I prefer his mother Joan. It's like a nice saucy novel in my.
I didn't even know who that was. I thought you just picked a name.
Joan Collins is a famous romance novelist.
Do I look like someone's reading romance novels? Do I look like someone that reads?
One romance novel.
We are creating gimmicks that should die tonight.
Only on SuperDraft. Anybody at 2x that you would play today? There's kind of looks like dog crap at 2x today. I really don't think I would play any of these guys.
Highest guy I have at 2x is Wesley Matthews. No, Hamidou Diallo. So no. Is there a 195 anywhere?
Wesley Matthews does pop up. He is the top 2x guy for Alex as well. I could see that being a play to make with no Middleton. Maybe he gets a little more. Like, not one I'm dying for, but
Dario Saric at 1.95 is my highest 1.95 guy. And then is there really not a 1.9 guy?
I guess not.
Harry Giles.
Yeah, probably not so much Harry Giles with Len now.
Slow-mo.
I was glad to see that he got the 30 plus minutes in that one game, though. I was like, oh, cool. Like his knees must be doing a little better, or at least they're willing to blow him out more. So that's
Guys, go to SuperDraft. 26-28 in right now. 7 minutes to go. We're staring overlay, full on free, like full on negative rake is very much in play. Reduced rake is a guarantee. Guys, you should be getting like you should be putting your money in here. Even if it's one entry, that it will be the best entry in a contest you'll have today. Full stop.
And once again, the lineup that we had, Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Donovan Mitchell, Zion Williamson, Pascal Siakam, Giannis, and Christian Wood at center to close it out. And then if you want to do some swappies, Eric Bledsoe right behind LeVert and Dinwiddie as a guy to switch around to if you want to change around those guard spots. That would be one way to do so.
I'm going to run a crunch of SuperDraft right now.
Also, EMAC correcting me. Jackie Collins was the romance novelist. I should have known EMAC would know. But Joan Collins is the actress then, I guess. Right?
EMAC for sure taking a Jackie Collins novel to the beach.
There, I imagined him with like the nose, like the suntan lotion right on the nose.
Yep.
A reflective mirror too, so he gets some glow.
Like a frozen drink with a large piece of fruit in it.
EMAC Vacation's like a family circus character. These are the kind of comments you only get in the Super Draft show, guys. This is why you have to stick with us, even if you're not playing Super Draft. Just watch this because we get delirious real fast,
like Eddie Murphy.
Looking at the YouTube, people enjoy that. You've made a good bit with the Super Draft bit. I feel like people do enjoy that.
All right, I'm gonna run 100 lineup crunch, just 3 uniques. You could have as much of anybody as you'd like. I mean, this is going to shake out a lot like just straight projections, as it should, but...
EMAC says, I hate you, Josh, so much. He said, nice family circus reference for me. Where did Billy go today? That is also a great bit, which nobody's ever stolen, really. But one of the characters on this old comic strip, which I think might still exist, would just walk around as a little kid, and he would walk around and they'd show just his trail of walking. It really must have been easy to make a comic strip in like the 60s and then just make millions forever.
Yeah, I don't know anything you're talking about right now, but 2,850 entries right now. As I mentioned before, they need to get to 33-33 to have a non-negative rake contest. That might be tough in the last 5 minutes, so you might be getting paid to play, sort of.
Yeah, getting a much better chance here to have some big winnings. 10K up top, 40K guaranteed in the jump shot on Super Draft today. So close out your week before you head to happy hour. Just throw in this freaking lineup right now. LeVert, Dinwiddie, Mitchell, Zion, Pascal Siakam. I'm just going to pronounce his name weirdly. Giannis Antetokounmpo and Christian Wood. That is a lineup that you get the stamp of approval, the non-guaranteed guarantee that will win you some money today.
So I ran 100 lineup crunch with my projections for Super Draft. All I did was you could have 100% ownership. I mean, you can't, but like I have it set for 100% ownership caps. The only thing I did was 3 uniques. Who do you think my most exposed player is?
Is it Karis LeVert? Please tell me it's Karis LeVert.
It's not. Zion Williamson, 69. Hey.
Nice. You know Zion likes a 69. He probably cannot be on top for that. You could murder a person. It'd be like getting boulders dropped on your head in a cave.
What's up, Tom?
I'm not even drinking White Claw today. This is just genuinely me being exhausted from having done content from 7:30 a.m.
My top lineup: Dinwiddie, LeVert, Mitchell, Giannis, Siakam, Zion, Wood. But if we want to look at the second best lineup, Drew Holiday, Karis LeVert, Donovan Mitchell, Giannis, Jimmy Butler, Zion, DeAndre Ayton.
Okay. Ayton a strong play no matter what site you're playing on today. And Super Draft, certainly no difference at all.
The highest total multiplier I have is 10.9. That's Drew Holiday, Dinwiddie, Mitchell, RHJ, Nance, Williamson, Wood.
I busted Crichton's balls a little bit earlier in the week, but saying this is a good one. You wouldn't make jokes like that if you read more Family Circus. That is a fair point. I was more of a Marmaduke guy, so there was kind of an undercurrent.
Marmaduke? I watched the movie.
How was that?
I don't remember. I just know that it made my wife and I go Marmaduke a lot for like a couple weeks afterwards.
Well, that was basically what the comic was just Marmaduke. Like, oh, Marmaduke did something. Marmaduke.
Yeah.
That was it.
We just did that over and over again. Guys, 2 minutes to get into the Super Draft contest. They just hit 3,000 entries. There's a really, really, really good shot that this is going to be a negative rake contest. And at the very least, there's going to be no rake. Get there. Get those entries in ASAP. You got 2 minutes. ASAP Super Draft.
SuperDraft.io or download it in the App Store. It's available for you. DA asking about the deposit mode. I don't know that. I don't know that that's. I think you could deposit with credit cards too on SuperDraft, but I have not deposited.
Yeah, they take crowns.
Yeah, they take super cash primarily. That's the way that they do that. See, you guys are like the two characters out of the Far Side comics. All right, Rounder Boy Nate. I like all these comic references we're given today. You got seconds left to get your lineup in. Again, that lineup we gave you guys, that is the Spags and Josh approved, or Josh and Spags, depending on your worldview lineup. Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Donovan Mitchell, Zion Williamson, Pascal Siakam, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Christian Wood. And I'll tell you what, there are not many times we'll give you out a lineup on the show because that's just stupid for the most part on the other sites. When you could just make money by putting in a competent lineup on SuperDraft, it makes a lot more sense to just do that. So simple as can be: Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Donovan Mitchell, Zion, Pascal Siakam, Giannis, Christian Wood. Seconds left to get it in. So do it if you haven't. Just put some money in there. Let's get it.
50 seconds to go. They're at 31. Whoa, that just jumped big time up to 32.60. So they're gonna come real close to the cutoff.
Hey, must have been all of our Marmaduke talk.
It must have been love, but it's over now. God, me singing in people's ears right now. Thank God people leave this show at 7.
Bill Miner just switched Tristan for Wood. Hope you guys don't F me. We just got to go off the projections, and Wood looked very good. We are almost locked, guys. So if you haven't gotten your Super Draft lineups in, make sure they are in. Otherwise, you'll be that would be a real bummer if you don't get your lineups in and then you don't make money on a day where it's very simple to make money. So do that part. It's an important part.
8 seconds. They are at the cutoff right now.
Dun 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 dun. Did you ever watch 24?
No. 33 is what's showing on my screen, which is the exact number needed to make that a negative rate contest. They took in to the dollar the prize pool.
Wow. Okay, so
I think, right? Am I doing that math correctly?
That sounds right.
They're $4 shy. So yeah, it's a literal rake-free contest for you guys today. And you know what the best part about this is? We're allowed to say rake now.
Oh, could we not say rake before?
A previous company called it a management fee.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I didn't realize that was why we said that. Because I was never really on those shows, but interesting.
Yeah. So it is nice to say rake again. At which point there is none in that contest.
Yeah, so it is a big edge. Again, play Super Draft, especially towards the tail end of the weeks. We noticed in the beginning of the weeks, especially, people are a little more willing to go there for whatever reason, maybe more mental bandwidth to go around. But there is an advantage in you playing Super Draft every single day, whether we're doing the Super Draft show or not. Projections are free multiple days during the week, so we'll tell you whenever they're free. I dropped the link in the chat multiple times, but play on Super Draft for yourself. Obviously, it helps us out. They're a sponsor, all that. But more importantly, we also tell you guys how it is, even when we can't use certain words, apparently. But we do go out of our way to make sure that you guys are aware of things that are going to help you out. And playing on Super Draft right now, if you're a newer player or even an experienced player, guys like Brick, who I've mentioned a lot on here, Alex has been playing on there. Savvier DFS players than you are starting to play on there now, because there is such an edge playing on there, both with the money they're giving up as well as just the simplicity of the tournaments and all that. So go play on Super Draft every day. SuperDraft.io. Download Super Draft in the App Store. Josh, anything you want to plug here?
Just
sorry, I cut it. Do it without me talking. I'm sorry.
Super Draft.
Your heart wasn't in it as much on that one.
It wasn't.
All right. Anything you want to plug?
No.
All right. Watch.
Soccer tomorrow. Projections will be up.
Oh, there you go. Check out Josh's projections. Watch Fast Eddie Fear and EMAC this weekend. Make sure to make lots of old references for EMAC. It'll feel young and vibrant.
Yeah.
We appreciate you guys.
Bring your Joan Collins novels.
Drink a Tom Collins, talk about Jackie Collins and Joan Collins. EMAC will know all the correct Collinses, I am sure. Watch the XFL strategy show I did this morning with Sal. It took me about 5 minutes for my brain to work right after going right from doing a column and the four corners into that show. But after that, it was all great. So watch that on the channel. It's right here on our YouTube. And of course, subscribe and hit the notification bell to know whenever we go live. And I guess one last plug too, because we've been doing it all week and I forgot to do it today with all the other things we're plugging. Podcast giveaways, guys, going on right now. Check the pin tweet on that Awesemo_com. All you have to do is give our Apple podcast feed, the Awesemo feed, very simple to find. Give it 5 stars and a positive review, and you leave your Awesemo name on there. You're going to be entered to win a free month of Awesemo Plus. We're giving away a bunch of those. So check the pin tweet on at Awesemo_com if you want to know the details. Watch the strategy show. Be back with you guys on Monday. So enjoy your weekends. Have a good